Good evening, everybody. Welcome to tonight's stream. I believe we're now live. Tonight, we're just having a general paranormal chat with the usual guests. We've got Sam from Life After Life ITC Research with the big mouthful of a title. And we've got Julie from Unearthly Wonderings. What it's going to be tonight, there's going to be no fixed topic as such. We can just talk about anything paranormal you want to. You can bring anything up in the chat. And we'll talk about, topics the panel think and stuff like that. But there's going to be no like fixed format to it as such. It's just a nice, easy evening today. So the first thing I want to talk about is actually a bit of an extension from the Philip experiment we're doing at the moment. I've noticed over the last week we've been discussing on and off, touching on the fact of Ed Sam that you're getting on your box. And it's actually started. That sounded rather rude, didn't it? It's actually started. Oh God, we're here already. It's actually Hi, Mandy. It's actually started me thinking down the path of, I'm wondering if we've got a bit of an overlap between ITC and mental projection going on here, because the more Sam seems to be believing in Ed, and the more she's interacting with Ed, the more he seems to be becoming a very dominant figure on your spirit box. Would you agree with that, Sam?
Yeah, it's a very difficult one because in ITC, everybody wants to move on from the spirit box. What's next? But actually, the spirit box isn't properly documented at the moment. Do you know what I mean? We still have a lot to do with the spirit box, like documenting, air pressure, moon phase, tidal, I put in the time and the date at the beginning, but I could be documenting more information and stuff and to see if there's a pattern and stuff. But, Ed is a weird one because it started off with the box builder.
Mm-hmm.
He says that, there's a couple of spirits in his house. One of them is Ed, and he's just played with Ed. Mm-hmm. Next thing, the boxes started taking off in the UK. There's about 180 to 200 sent to the UK, and lots of reports were coming back, saying, I'm getting Ed now as well. And, this is why I do believe that the operator is important. And, I watch Rob's streams. I watch his sessions and stuff, and that audio is coming into my space and stuff. There's a lot to figure out. There's a lot to figure out there,
Yeah. Jackie's put there were a few people who had an Ed that was very prominent through their spirit boxes. So I don't think he's a Sam Thorpe projection. That is a possibility. That could be very true, Jack. But on the other side of the coin, it could also be the fact that all these people who've got these boxes now, as they have started to believe more and more that Ed is appearing on this particular box, or these boxes made by Rob, could it be that they're generating their own Eds? Because what's really interesting, and I ain't saying this is what's happening, I'm just discussing this could be a possible explanation for some communication we get on spirit boxes. And I ain't saying it's all, because what is very interesting is years back when I first started using the Ouija board, now I'm going back to when I was like 14, 15, I actually started to communicate with a young girl, me and my best friend at the time, who claimed she was actually murdered in the basement of a pub very close to where we lived. Obviously, we couldn't prove it one way or the other, but she claimed that the murderer was she always claimed he was her uncle. She used to call him Uncle Reggie, and then she started to refer to him as Reggie Rape. Right?
Yeah.
Now, at the time, I didn't really know about things like that when I was 14. So I don't believe she was actually a projection, but the more she started to tell us about this Reggie character, me and my friends started to build up our own mental picture of him. And then all of a sudden, this entity claiming to be Reggie started to manifest on the board to the point that he actually he used to dominate the communication pretty, like Ed does with your Sam.
Yeah.
He used to like to start to dictate who was coming through the Ouija board, what communication we were getting. And this little girl spirit we communicated with used to take a back seat as soon as he turned up, sort of thing. He'd push her back. But this Reggie would also do it to any other communication we've got. Now, Reggie was totally non-existent on the board for months. Absolutely months. We were talking to the young girl for months before this Reggie formed, but Reggie never actually formed on the board until me and my friend had actually built a very big, to the point we both believed that this Reggie was a person. And then he suddenly started instantly manifesting on the board. He came from nowhere one day and we couldn't get rid of him. So I'm wondering, hi Ghostly Whispers, I'm wondering, was Reggie this kind of thing where it was our belief actually invented Reggie to the point our own heads were controlling who or what could come through that board?
Yeah, it's not very clear cut whether the same head is the same head that came from Rob and that, but at the same time, you're thinking of the atmosphere or the environment of where the box was made. What energy can be picked up from that? Obviously, Rob's going to test the box. But last week, one of the communicators said to me, I asked, where did Ed come from? And they said, you.
Yeah.
So that was kind of weird. Yeah. So I don't know.
Yeah.
But I've had 2 days off from Ed, which is great. He's not pestering my sessions, but I have about 50 or 60 sessions, and he's up. I think he's in nearly every one of them. And he wasn't coming through any other box other than the RTC, and then he started coming through the Roberts and the other radios and stuff like that. It's weird, And then, there was another lady. She bought the box, and Ed kept coming up on that. But you see, the thing is, at the beginning, I didn't even push it. Now I am. Because if you bring up a certain name on a spirit box, it's at some stage, some communicator's going to copy you.
Yeah.
Do you know?
Yeah. Jackie's put there were a few people who had an Ed that was very prominent through their spirit boxes. So I don't think some of the thought projection. Then she put, this was a couple of years ago, that didn't have Rob's spirit boxes yet. There was another interesting case of it where we got Dave a lot. Can you remember when we started getting Dave a lot? And people are, different people were saying they were getting Dave. See, I'm not saying that I'm just saying this could be a possibility. Very much like there's, just like Zozo spread across the internet. He was created in somebody's head, and then suddenly everybody was getting Zozo on the Ouija boards and on their spirit boxes and stuff. Is this a phenomenon on its own that's occurring? Is this some kind of crossover between ITC and mental projection, which, if it is really exciting in its own right?
Absolutely.
And then you've also got the thing, because I'm a firm believer in stone tape theory. Could it be that Rob's energy is imprinting on the box and some form of stone tape theory is in play? It's really interesting the way this could all be interrelated.
Yeah. I got a little bit of information about Dave and Philip, which there's other little groups, and they have their own little private, their little private Facebook groups, and they have a private Facebook group for their friends. What they do is spirit box session every morning. They share it with each other and discuss it and stuff like that. And Dave and Philip actually is prominent in their community. Some of these guys, you know, like you got Bruce Holiday that's been doing a session every day for about 16 years, you know, and was known for hacking the 470.
Yeah.
And a couple of those. There's some of these here, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And their information that they're sort of seem to be getting was that Philip and Dave are known in the ITC world as the technicians, two technicians. There is other names,
Mm-hmm.
and they're sort of the go-between, or they sort of the satellite repeater for the communication. It's complicated. It's complicated. It's complicated when, you know, we're not scientists. You know, we're just radio operators. That's all.
Yeah.
Do you know?
Gillian says she's continually getting a lady come through her spirit box called Mary Moore. She said she's looking for her grandson. Breaks my heart. See, that was very similar to that young girl I used to get on the Ouija board, Gillian. It was a very similar thing with her. She was like the resident contact we always got. She was the one that used to actually spell out a certain thing and then do the Amiga pattern in a particular way, you know, the infinity pattern. That was her. It was the young girl. But when she started telling us about this Reggie over the months, me and my friend really came to believe in this Reggie guy, you know, because she told us all sorts of details about him, all sorts of details. So in my head, he became he was a real person from some time period. But as soon as it got to the point where me and my friend hit that mental state where we, you know, this Reggie was a person, he started appearing on the Ouija board.
Yeah.
Do you know what's interesting about that is that I have for many years been watching another YouTube creator who is involved with the Zozo phenomenon, and they do a lot of Ouija board work. And they said one of the first signs of Zozo coming through is that infinity figure 8.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting, like, is that kind of tied in with something to do with this phenomenon as well?
I've
These
no
entities.
idea. Yeah, but it is interesting. See, because we know there is evidence out there that proves that Zozo was fabricated.
Yes.
You know, we know it's fiction.
Mm-hmm.
But how many people now have got videos on, you know, online where Zozo has come through the spirit box, or Zozo has apparently been on the Ouija board? You know, is collective belief coming to the point where we're creating these things? You know, it's an interesting slant to consider.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and this is where things get muddled. You know.
Yeah.
You get, you know, the phenomenon of the TV shows. You know, every Tom, Dick, and Harry went out and started buying the stuff they saw on TV shows, the PSP7s, the K2s, and all the rest of it.
The REM pods.
All that kind of stuff, and went out and started copying what the TV shows did. And that's what it is. That's what it is.
Yeah.
But in the line of the spirit box, sometimes it's treated like a mobile phone.
Yes.
And people are saying now, you know, we're 18 years into you know, a scanned spirit box. Should we not be moving on from this? But if we do move on from this, I don't think the spirit box has been documented 100% properly yet.
Yeah.
In order to move on.
Mm-hmm.
So if we move on, what are we leaving behind? You know, What are we leaving behind? What information are we leaving behind?
Yeah.
You know, and in a lot of cases, you know, you'll have people that will do a spirit box, and then you got the, you know, the social medias, the YouTube and stuff like that, and they're doing it for YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're not documenting, you know, the time, the moon phase and stuff like that. And it was only brought up recently, and I was saying that actually is a good point. Mm-hmm. You know, environmental factors, the weather conditions, you know, barometric pressure, you know, the moon phase, tidal situation, the whole the whole all that. If that all that was documented at the time of doing the spirit box, maybe in the future there'll be something that will tie in everything, and those patterns could be. It's like a jigsaw, and we still have everything is just all pieces.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, Jackie's put there, Epic Paranormal is the one who gets head on his spirit box for years. Yeah, Jackie, I do believe you. You can build up a rapport with whatever you're communicating with, because we definitely did with that young girl on the Ouija board. You know, I spoke to that girl for years, 2-3 years. We had a like a communication relationship, and I don't know whether it's because the more you communicate with them, you form some kind of bond with them. You know, I ain't saying that they're attached to you, but it may be, it may be easier for them to communicate with you the more you do it. And, I do find that with spirit boxes, the more you use them, the better results you seem to get with them.
Yeah.
Maybe there's some kind of rapport has to be built up in the first place. But I do believe that's possible, Jackie, that you can get a person coming through constantly because you built a rapport up with them. Gillian says it's sad, Wolf, as I don't know if her grandson is in spirit or still earthbound yet. This is the problem when you get communications like that, Gillian. Unless they will actually narrow down what they want, there's nothing you can really do about it. They've got to believe, they've got to give you something to work with, something or something to research on. So, that's a bit of a difficult one. Go on, Gillian.
It's interesting because when I would probably say a year ago, when I used to sit down and do spirit box sessions every Saturday, quite often I used to have what we believed to be a very young child, a young girl, come through the box, and you could hear a child's voice come through, and it would be every Saturday that it would happen.
Yeah.
And we got a name come through once that we thought was this child, and we would talk to it every week. But the moment we stopped bringing the child up, they stopped coming through the box as well. And I look back on that now and think, well, is that kind of buying into the same theory? Maybe it wasn't a spirit that we were communicating with. It's definitely an interesting theory, and one that needs to be touched on more. Yeah.
Ghost Whispers has put some up there, which I think is really good. I believe the spirits will be whatever we want them to be. I totally agree with that. Ghostly. I believe that there are certain things out there. See, I'm always a bit loath to call things spirits because, like I say, I'm not 100% convinced everything we talk to is dead people. I think we talk to a mixture of things. So I always use the term communicator, or what we're communicating with. I do believe that there are things out there which will happily, claim to be whatever you want to be. And I also believe they have ways of picking up off you. And I don't know how, if it's whether they're reading thoughts in your head or whether they're just noticing the things you're saying. But if people go looking for things like demons or poltergeists in supposedly haunted areas, that is what they'll find. Because whatever is there picks up on what they want and puts on the show for them. For whatever reason, whether it's for humour on their part so they can sit on wherever they are and have a good laugh at how these people react. I do not know, but I do firmly believe, Whispers, that there are certain entities out there that will actually be whatever you want them to be. Couldn't agree with that comment more.
I think definitely, and there's a lot of evidence to say that the operator of the spirit box, or the person that's calling out or doing the investigation, doing the calling out, doing the communication, they're very important. Because there's a big difference between doing a communication session when you're there and communicating, and turning on the spirit box and walking away. You don't get very, very little results from actually walking away and just letting it run. You'll get some. You may get some. You may get two communicators talking and stuff like that. But in general, a lot of the time, the communicator is so much part of the session and that. And I was told a couple of days ago on another stream where the guy who invented the mini box, I can't remember his name now, but it came to a stage that he was so used to the communication that he actually didn't even need the box after that.
Mm.
Do you know?
Yeah.
And I experienced over the last year, because I've been doing a trial on a separate little channel there where I do a spirit box session nearly every day and stuff. For a couple of months, once I turned the spirit box on, I was getting different levels of static energy through my body.
Yeah.
And then for a couple of weeks, I wasn't getting it. And I'm lately, the last couple of sessions I done, I started getting it back. And that is not a medical condition because it doesn't happen in my everyday life. It's just sometimes when I'm doing these sessions, you get this static, similar to, when you're holding the dowsing rods and you get this electric feel up your hand, or if you're holding some people are holding the pendulum and stuff.
Mm.
Definitely the person has something to do with it.
Yeah.
Whether the communicators are acting, using us like a repeater or something, I don't know. Mm-hmm. It's
yeah. Pat said, "Oh, by the way, folks, I've actually toned down Nightbot, so he shouldn't be so uptight about multiple emojis and stuff like that now. I think there's a limit of 10 on it now before he starts getting funny." Right, Pat Middleton said, "I had a young girl follow me home after bonding on a spirit board." See, I'm a bit on the fence about attachments and stuff, Pat. To me, I would just as likely put that down to the fact they followed your home out of curiosity, rather than the fact they'd actually attached to you. But again, that's just a personal opinion. Because I presume things on wherever we're talking to are as curious about us as we are about them.
Yeah.
And I believe, I don't think you have to go to an haunted area to speak to something, because I think they're more than capable of coming to you.
Yeah.
This is why, it's perfectly possible to do extremely good spirit box sessions in your own living room, because you don't have to go to them. They're more than capable of coming to you. Yeah. Joanne says, "Is it?" Hang on, sorry. Let me just read this out before they all scroll off. "Is it possible that the communicators could be our own inner demons?" What do you think of that one, guys?
I think in a way, I was thinking before when we were talking about the demon theory and that wouldn't it be an interesting theory if we looked into this further and it was found that some of our thoughts and projections can come through and create entities through the box, and we had firm evidence of that, then we could look more deeply at demons and things like that and say, well, how many of these are actually real and how many of these are around thought projections?
Yeah.
So I think it's a possibility.
The only thing there is, if you were to get communication, would it not be relevant to your life? Because very often I get communication that's got nothing to do with my life. Do you know what I mean? In my conscious mind.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You see, with all of this, when you mentioned there about attachments and stuff like that,
mm-hmm.
Do you know, is the paranormal community or the paranormal field guilty of assumptions?
Yeah.
Because do we understand attachment? How does it attach?
Yeah.
What way is the energy for? This is the thing. This is the thing. Science needs to get involved. The experts in specific fields need to get involved. Otherwise, we have to ask ourselves, we got muddles of information. Some people have an expert in their own field. Some people are enthusiasts.
Mm-hmm.
And some people are fraudsters. So, that's where things start getting very, very complicated when it comes to information and theories, you know?
Yeah. Jackie said, if they are reading your mind or desires, then why do our loved ones come through? Because it's quite possible they can be your loved ones, Jackie. This is what I'm saying. I'm not saying every single thing that comes through the spirit boxes has come from our heads. I believe we get a multitude of things through the box. I think we get genuine, what people would class as spirits. I think we get things come through that may be from other dimensions. And I think we may be getting stuff through that comes from our heads as well. I think it's a big, massive cooking pot of all sorts of various things that we get coming through.
Yeah, like a mixture.
Yeah.
Frank believed that he was in contact. Frank Sumption believed he was in contact with aliens, actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
They used to call him the Purple Princess.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
And Joanne's put, so the operator of the spirit box could be an essential tool for communicating. Wow. Personally, I don't believe the operator could be an essential tool for communicating, Joanne. I think they are. I don't think they could be. I think they are an essential tool for communicating.
But
I think you do need the operator for it to work properly.
Yeah, there's a lot of evidence going towards that. All right, Jess.
Yeah. But that's just my personal opinion. But personally, I do believe without the operator, you're not going to get as good stuff, because there's some form of that interacting is needed for whatever reason. That's what I believe, anyway.
I seen a stream the other night where they went, it was a ghost hunt, and they turned on a box, and it just happened to be one of the RTCs and that, and they decided to go out for 20 minutes and have a fag or whatever, and nothing significant came through that box until they arrived back in the room. And next thing, it just started kicking off.
Yeah. Mandy's just put an interesting suggestion in, the one that I hadn't considered. Could some of these communications we're getting through actually be like an echo from a previous life? I hadn't even considered that.
Some of it could, but then that would rule out direct response to questions.
Or wouldn't it be really cool if we were talking to each other through boxes and radios?
Yeah. But what Mandy's saying could actually be possible, Sam, even with direct communication. Because if it's your mind actually if part of them are your mind transferring stuff into the box, if you are subconsciously tapping into a past life, you would know the answers for that particular life. So when you ask the question, your subconscious would answer it. So it is possible. That's quite an interesting one, actually. I'd never ever considered that. Could some of them be past life echoes? See, this is the beauty about the paranormal and the ITC and stuff like that. We simply don't know. Everybody is just making the assumption that everything that comes through the spirit box is a dead person. And I'm just personally the opinion that it's not. I think dead people are just one facet of what comes through a spirit box. I think we get many other different types of things as well. I really do. Rose said she had a demon sausage sandwich this morning.
Oh, yum.
Sometimes you get the communicators coming in going, "Hi, how are you?" And I go, "What's your name?" And I said, "Oh, it's Jane, Mary, Pat, or whatever." And and then you ask, "Are you the spirits of dead people?" Next thing, God, do you know what I mean? I go, and sometimes, I'll run the box and, how are you today? I'm great. How are you? This kind of, this kind of chit chat. And when you just leave it on an ordinary level, they tend to stick around for a bit longer. And then when you go and ask the fundamental questions, then things start getting tricky.
Yeah.
You'll get answers to the question in a number of different ways that sort of conflict with each other. and then sometimes you'll just shoot the communication down altogether because they just don't. You know, and then some of them say, it's a secret, we can't tell you, and some of them said we can tell you. So which is the right and wrong answer there?
Yeah. Maybe it's different depending on what kind of entity or being or whatever it is. Maybe they all have different rules, or
you never know.
Yeah.
You never know.
Yeah.
Stevens put, I agree that what we call demons are entities in a bad mood. Yeah, I could agree with that. I think so. I think what a lot of people class as demons are possibly negative entities, and or mimics. I've had personal experience in the last 18 months of something that was mimicking. It was actually mimicking Jason in the house, to the point it was fooling the dogs. So, so I do believe there's things out there that can actually mimic someone. I really do. Yeah. Rose says she always gets her house name. And I'm going to scroll down. I've lost it now. Oh God! I always get my house name on a lot of my ghost boxes. It's quite possible, Rose. It's quite possible. I do think that that you do form bonds with whatever you're communicating with. Like Sam seems to be forming one with Ed at the moment. Ed seems extremely enthusiastic about talking to Sam all the while lately. I did with that little girl on the Ouija board. We communicated with her over a span of about 3 years, and consequently, her uncle Reggie, if he was actually her uncle, or whether uncle was just the word she used to describe him. But you can build up relationships with these things that you're talking to.
Yeah.
Joanne says, I love hearing everyone's opinion and beliefs. It gives us a lot to think about and ponder over. And this is why I love these streams, Joanne, because it's not just about what I think or what Sam thinks or what Julie thinks. Everybody can put their own theories out there, like that one that Mandy just put up. I'd never even considered that before. That was a brilliant suggestion or something to think about.
Yeah.
Could it possibly be, some of them could possibly be echoes from past lives? Who knows? Who knows?
I think in order to move forward from this, we have to stop reading the TV show script, which everybody seems to be reading of. And that includes, constantly going investigating at nighttime.
Mm-hmm.
There's not enough people doing it during the daytime. And what we need is an open mind rather than following a script. Because when you're following a script, you don't know if you're going down the wrong road or not.
Yeah.
Just like a word will come up from the spirit box and you're not quite sure if it's radio or is it communication, and it just said dream, or it just said Pat or whatever. It could have been a radio voice. And if I started talking, hey, how are you doing, Pat?
Yeah.
They didn't say Pat. It was the radio that said Pat, and you just missed it. So, thing about it is to have an open mind of all the possibilities.
Mm-hmm.
And, people do share ideas, and, no idea is a stupid idea,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's being open-minded and then not following the script that everybody is following, and everybody's been following that for years.
Mm.
We need to think of other ways of approaching all of this.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what we're doing.
Yeah, go on, Sam, sorry.
That's what we're doing. We're following a TV show script.
Yeah.
Rather than thinking for ourselves.
Yeah. I think when people use spirit boxes, they've got to start getting more corroborative evidence of things before, just because they get a name, they shouldn't just automatically presume that that's the name of what they're talking to just because the name's been said. They need to get some kind of backup, either a repeat of the name or other details to fill in around it. Because you do notice some people, rather than leading the conversation, of the spirit box, they let the spirit box lead the conversation, and you have got to be, and everybody, we all do it at some point. We all fall into that trap, but you've got to be conscious of when it's happening. Seagull says, "I've always wondered it." Sorry, Sam, go on.
If you're thinking about if you put yourself in the communicator's shoes, and they're trying to talk to you through these snippets of audio, and the operator has gone down the wrong road because they heard the name Sean, and the communicator on the other side is going, how am I supposed to talk to this person?
Yeah.
They're on about Sean. I didn't say Sean. The radio said Sean. Do you know that kind of way?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seagull says, I've always wondered if... Go on, sorry, Julie.
No, that's all right. I was just going to say very quickly, when I used to do spirit box session, I used to do the same thing, script everything. But then when I started talking to you guys, you started opening my mind. And so one thing that I do now when I go out is make sure that I ask different questions each time. And it's questions such as, what kind of an entity are you? It's changing up our questions as well, instead of sticking to what's, you know, are you dead or something like that? It's, you know,
Yeah. You because a lot of people, like, they go to a cemetery and they presume just because they're in a cemetery, they're going to talk to dead people. Why? Just because they're in a cemetery, it makes no difference. And they'll start a spirit box session with, when did you die? And my first response to that is, how do you know you're talking to something that's died?
Yep.
Straight away, you've gone down the wrong path. You've locked off all other avenues for communication then, because you're asking, how long have you been dead? Just because you're standing in the cemetery doesn't mean say you're going to start communicating with somebody whose body's in that cemetery. You can still get anybody from anywhere, and they may not be dead. They may be from another universe or something, for all you know.
I've had communicators to say, they said that they were alive. Yeah. I've had communicators to say that I was dead.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Right. I am definitely going to get these comments out of Seago's now.
All right.
Seago says, I've always wondered if it perhaps linking to parallel universes. It's tricky in it. There's so many explanations possible for what's happening there. And this is the beauty of it, Seago. People need to start expanding the thinking away from there just talking to dead people. You know, you've got to think, is it a dead person? Is it somebody from another reality? You've got to start putting your questions in a point where you leave it open and let them tell you, rather than just presuming it's going to be a dead person you're speaking to, because it could be, but it might not be. You know, and you've got to stop cutting off the avenues before you've even started.
Absolutely.
Rose says is getting fed up with the paranormal. We all go through that stage every now and again, Rose. I can sympathise with that. And then Seago put, go on, Sam.
Thing is, what is the paranormal? Are we talking about paranormal community or the paranormal in general?
Yeah.
You know? And when the paranormal is fascinating, you know, but, you know, there's different aspects to community.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
And then Seago goes on to say there's definitely something happening, because you wouldn't get specific names, surnames, or direct answers from random radio. See, you actually would. The difference is when you're consistently getting specific answers. That is when you know you're getting good, you know, because the laws of averages state that if you ask a question, at some point that radio is going to spit out a response that sounds like it's an intelligent response. You know, that's just the law of averages, you know, and just sheer luck. It is when you're having a communication for 2-3 minutes at a time and every question you ask gets an intelligent response, then you know there's something going on.
Yeah.
You know, you can't rely on just one single response and say, oh, I definitely got intelligent responses. There's got to be a multitude of them together, sort of thing. So you can see you're actually having some kind of intelligent type of communication with them. Kel says it could also be frequency overlaps from a different dimension. Yeah, I believe that goes on, Kel. And I do believe that can explain some of the things that are said on spirit boxes, like with certain things that claim they're not dead. You know, I do believe that that could be something dimensional. We're communicating with. Yeah. And then Seagull's put there. It's right. I'm reading down the chat. So I'm trying to catch up with my chat. I scrolled down too far. I got to read that, boss. Kelly, in a minute. I've just scrolled past it, going back up with some about Oogie Boogie. I'm going to have to read that out in a minute. Oh. Right. Could be frequency overlaps. Then Seagull says, or at least the chances would be incredibly slim and nowhere near as frequent. Yeah, Seagull, that's what I was just saying about, you need to get them in. You need to get a cluster of them before you can say with any certainty you're getting some form of intelligent communication. Then Mandy put, I often think when people ask, are you dead? But energy never dies. So maybe the question should be, did you occupy and leave an earthly body or such? That is what I always say, did you exist on the earthly plane at any point? Because that's the best way I can think of putting it.
Yep.
Yeah, I kind of cringe when I do ask, are you dead?
Yeah.
You wouldn't ask. It's to me, it's kind of like, is that disrespectful to ask that, or I just don't feel comfortable with it sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And Judy brought up a good point there where, if you're doing a load of sessions, and I'm only in the beginning of this, I have to try and learn to flow that conversation rather than asking the same stupid questions all the time. And sometimes in a session, I crack jokes. I'm sorry, I'm a pain in the ass. I'm asking stupid questions.
Yeah.
I'm trying to understand here. I hope you don't mind my stupid questions. But I'm trying to get the conversation flowing in a normal sort of way, like you would communicate.
But the thing is, Sam, if you look at it from this point of view, if you are communicating with somebody who you believe was alive once and is now dead, you wouldn't have talked to them in life like you were interviewing them anyway. You'd have a laughy, jokey conversation with them. So why should it be any different when you're doing it through the spirit box? Nobody wants to be sick. It's the same when they say when people go, oh, do this, do that, like they're performing seals.
Yeah,
I just find it really disrespectful, because you wouldn't do that to somebody who's alive. Why should you expect somebody to do it just because you believe they're dead? There's somebody dead you're talking to. Why should they have to do all these things just to prove a point?
I think a lot of us were guilty of it, and I can put my hand up and say that too. Because a friend of mine actually pulled me up on that.
Mm-hmm.
She says, how dare you ask, spirits to do stuff for you like this?
Mm-hmm.
In some ways, you're invading their space, and then you're pushing your weight around.
Yeah.
You need to flip and think, that kind of way. And I thought to myself, do you know something? She's right.
Yeah.
Do you know? I've done the numbers thing, the colors thing, and sometimes I didn't ask in the beginning. Says, do you mind doing this?
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to get evidence and trying to understand your words and stuff like that. Do you mind? Do you mind participating in this rather than say, what color is this? What number is this? What color is my t-shirt? What color is my trousers?
Yeah.
What did I have for breakfast this morning? Talking
about t-shirts, I washed it today. It don't stink of vinegar anymore. God, it absolutely reeked of it last night. I sat here and all I could smell was vinegar. I had to put it in the washing machine last night because the living room just stunk of vinegar. Why it smelled? Has your t-shirt come yet, Sam?
No.
Oh, I thought it had been here today. Hopefully you might get it tomorrow then.
Yeah, cool t-shirt.
Yeah, you have to give people a look at the t-shirt before you finish up.
I don't know if you can see that.
The modeling.
I love it. It looks really good.
Right. Pat says, my friend does past life regression. Oh, sorry. Rose says, Grumpy is always in a bad mood. Yes, he is, Rose. Pat says, my friend does past life regression. Some amazing things come up on his lives. I love the topic of reincarnation. For me, I think, you know, the greatest advocates of reincarnation come from the Asian countries, and especially from the young kids who suddenly start talking about past lives, and you know, and they take their current parents to villages hundreds of miles away in countries where, you know, these people rarely travel 20 miles from where they were born, and they take them around like houses and to families and start calling them by pet names and stuff like that. I think reincarnation's a fascinating subject, but especially in the past life regression hypnosis, I'm always a little bit wary about, because hypnosis can introduce false memory and stuff like that. So you've got to be careful. You know, you've got to take it. You've got to take into consideration that they could be implanting suggestion into the subconscious. I ain't saying that's what always happens, but you have got to be aware of that. But I think cases where there's no hypnosis involved and they have just spontaneously started talking about these past lives is absolutely fascinating. I don't know what your opinions are on reincarnation, both.
I definitely believe in reincarnation, and I think I haven't really had any experiences. I've wanted to try past life regression, but as you said, you know, sometimes thoughts could be implanted. And so I think if you had somebody who does past life regression that was willing to sit down and let you record a session so that you could see how it's done and have them asking you questions that wasn't perhaps putting your mind on a certain path, I think it would be an interesting theory, kind of leading you back and then saying, what do you see?
Yeah.
What is around you? Who is around you? Kind of questions like that that aren't leading you into a certain storyline.
Yeah.
I'd definitely try it. Yeah.
Yeah. Sam, what's your impression on reincarnation?
I believe it is through, you know, possibly dreams or jumping to conclusions, coincidence, stuff like that. Does that mean it's real? That's not enough evidence.
Yeah.
You know, you know, yeah, I can believe in that. Yeah, but can I categorically say, you know, that it's real? No.
Yeah.
Well, we can't with anything to do with the paranormal. There's nothing in the paranormal we can say with 100% certainty it's real or not.
Yeah, there is lots of stories, you know, documentaries and stuff like that. The problem is the accuracy of the information, you know, and we're in an age now where a lot of information is coming through the internet. Some of it's very creative fiction, and some of it's fact, and it's all mixed up together. And you know, we're in an age now where we've got conflicting informations. You know, you have to fish for it. You know.
Yeah. What you want to do, Sam, when you got a spare 5 minutes, Google some of the cases of children in India from remote villages who've claimed past life. Honestly, you'll be fascinated by the stories of what these kids have done, said and done. You know, about their past lives. It's amazing.
Yeah, it needs to be explored more.
Yeah. Kel says, Sam, you are right. It's the oogie boogie effect of midnight that needs to change. Totally agree.
Well, I had a bit of a boogie moment there. Do you know when you seen me kind of laughing there for a second?
Yeah.
I have a house plant. It's a tree just beside me, and I looked at the corner of my eye, and the back of the thing was shaking. It was actually the dog that went past, and I didn't see it. My heart jumped for a second when I seen the tree just moving like that at the corner. Do you know when you often see things at the corner of your eye?
Yeah.
Do you know? Yeah, that made me jump for a second, but it was actually the dog.
Yeah.
You know?
Ghostly Whisper says it's more compelling when you get EVPs through your camera once the spirit box is turned off. Yeah, I've picked things up on a camcorder that, you know, when there's been no spirit box going. Another interesting one we did was when we did what we call the fairy garden investigation. I did with Andy from Elemental Encounters, and I actually left a recorder at the foot of a tree in the garden, and I recorded. And now we walked off about 50 feet away to another part of the garden where I could still see the tree to make sure nobody pinched me recorder. And I actually picked up the sound of somebody walking round the tree. You could hear it. You could hear them crunching right by the recorder, and it got louder and quieter as they walked round. And then it was playing panpipes for about 10 minutes on and off through the recording. That was probably the best EVP I've ever caught. That was amazing. That was, but you could actually hear panpipes playing.
I'm sure
and
I
the
watched
footsteps
that.
walking around. Yeah.
It was an EVP on a camera that got me back into paranormal. I was doing an abandoned explorer. Went into this abandoned hospital, and there was glass all over the place. And when I got back home, I was going through the audio and stuff like that, made sure it was okay. Had the headphones on, and as I was walking into one of the rooms, and I crunched on a piece of glass. Heard a voice coming through the camera. You broke it, and I played it. I must have played it about 100 times that night. Yeah. I didn't go to bed till about 4:30 in the morning. I was just buzzing, and I says, I need to look into this a lot more. You know. Yeah. Next thing. You know, I gate crashed somebody's paranormal investigation.
Yeah.
With an MP3 voice recorder and a baby monitor and a secondhand camcorder. Mm-hmm. Next thing, I got addicted to eBay, and there was the K2 and then PSP 11, and next thing it just went out of control.
Sam, you've been addicted to eBay ever since.
Yes.
Let's be honest. It never stopped with the K2 meter. It just went on and on and on and on. That explains why there's like 40 spirit boxes sitting in your house.
It's interesting though, because one of the best EVPs that I think that I have caught through my camera in the whole years that I've been doing everything was one that I caught most recently. And it was when me and my sister were just stuffing around. We were walking through a cemetery at night, you know, having a look around and just laughing and carrying on. Mm-hmm. And I had an EVP come through. That's the one where it goes, shh. They're telling us to be quiet.
Stop doing Desmond impressions.
And we were just having fun. We weren't even doing a video.
Jackie says, Tyler used to tell Ed to bugger off. He had a spirit doll, and when Ed came, she would go away. Ed dominated the talk. That was exactly what I found with that young girl I used to talk to and Reggie. As soon as he turned up, he would push her to the background, and nobody else could come through unless he decided they were allowed to communicate. Rose says she doesn't like asking when you died. No, I don't, Rose. I always try and word it more politely. Kel says, why would they hang around graveyards? See, that's an interesting one, because I think, you know, graveyards, you've actually got more chance of picking up residual of the mourners than you actually have of the dead people themselves. Yep,
I've often said that.
Yeah, you know, I think maybe, you know, the grief and stuff, because it's highly charged emotion, and you're surrounded by stone everywhere. I think there's a good chance that could be absorbing into the stones. And you may, you know, ghosts appearing in cemeteries may not actually be full-blown ghosts of the person themselves. They could be a residual stone tape of somebody's memory of that person. You know, there's so many different theories you could have. Gillian says she 100% agree with me on something, but I was that far behind in the chat, I ain't 100% sure what she was agreeing with me on.
She agrees with something.
Yeah, she 100% agrees with something I've just said.
Yeah, which is good.
I've scrolled down too far. Hi, Fairy.
Have you got free?
Well, that's interesting, Pat. Pat says in her past life she wasn't human, but hang on, I need to scroll up a bit higher. I'm going to explore that in a minute. Joanne says, I need to get myself a T-shirt. They look cool. There's T-shirts, hoodies, everything on there, Joanne. You can link to it off the my main channel. But you can have them in black or white. I did them in black and white. There's women's versions as well.
Is there free-range children running around outside?
Yes, there is.
Oh,
can you hear it?
Yeah.
Right, I've scrolled down too far again. Let's start from here then. Sorry if I've missed anybody. Every paranormal group have their own way of investigation, and it's up to us to choose who we watch. Exactly, Stephen. Exactly. I've got to be honest, there's very few paranormal channels I actually watch on YouTube now. You know, it's just the way it's gone recently. But it's down to personal opinion. Kel says, I just removed why would they hang around in the graveyard? Because the only vision I'm on someone else's video was in a graveyard. So right, question for all of us. Which spirit box do you prefer to use? Sam?
RTC box.
Julie?
I have nowhere near the amount of experience these guys do, so the PSP7 at the moment, but that's all I've ever used.
Yeah, well, I've got to piss Sam off and say one of them is actually a PSP7. I do actually enjoy using the PSP7, but I've also got a Roberts 9914, and I absolutely love that one. And plus the fact, you know, it's got long wave, medium wave, and short wave on it, so you can scan some really obscure frequencies where you don't hear radio stuff on. So if you start getting stuff through that, you know something's happening.
Do you know the funny thing is, I absolutely hate the PSP7. Yes, there's an FM PSP7 board in my RTC box, but the static is removed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
you know. I don't
Ghostly
know.
Whisper says, I have had spirits saying they are dead without me asking. I've had the same thing, Ghostly Whispers.
Oh yeah.
I've had things come through on a spirit box claiming they're dead without me even asking.
Like
Jackie says, God, I'm sorry.
It's like a Joe's box.
Yeah.
You know? Pretty cool.
I like that box.
Yeah.
And it's quite good the fact they ain't actually much more than a PSP7 to buy.
Oh yeah.
That's what I like about them.
And really clean and quiet, you know?
Yeah. Jackie says jokes are good, they raise the energies. Seago says true. Honestly, if when I do crossover, I find myself being a ghost, I'll probably be spending a lot of my time being mischievous. I've always said I'll be spending a lot of my time in Vin Diesel's shower, but there you go.
Oh, I love it. You got good taste.
But I've already said to Sam, I'm probably the one who's going to pop my clogs first out of these three. I will come back to these two and give them. I don't care whether it's breaking the rules. I will come back and give you somewhere to work
please
with.
Please do.
Yeah, I will do. Mandy, I love how you use humor, Sam. It's when you use humor, you seem so much more relaxed. Exactly. Yep.
I'd love to come back and haunt Zach Bacon, so I'm really scared to life out of him. And really give him something to be scared about. I just sit back and laugh. Just sit back and laugh. You know?
Yeah. Pat says, do you think the combination of the energies of the people trying to get evidence can make things more active? I do in the extent that I think intent can actually help with things. But I've said this time and time again on my streams, I ain't convinced that they feed off us like some kind of energy vampires. I personally don't believe that whatever we communicate with in any way, shape or form needs to feed off us. Sam?
Yeah, I'm the same. But at the same time, you know, as an ITC operator, if I'm in a bad mood, I'm not going to communicate.
Yeah.
It's like you hang around with your friends, but if you're in a foul humor, sometimes you're better off just staying away from them because
I believe, you know.
snap.
I believe they can sense stuff like that, and like attracts like. I do believe that. Julie?
Yeah, I've often thought about that since you brought it up, saying that you don't believe energies can feed off batteries and things like that. And I thought, well, there's a plethora of different things that could buy into that. I mean, there could be environmental factors, perhaps, or even though energy is endless, is there a point when their energy does become low and they need a period of time to recharge, and they may use that energy? I mean, there's a whole different plethora of theories.
Yeah. Because I've experienced it myself where batteries go dry during the investigation, but personally I don't think that they need it to communicate. I ain't saying they can't possibly use it by converting it to whatever they need, but I don't think they actually need it. I think, like us, if they're surviving in another type of form, they will be like us and they will be perfectly adapted to their environment.
Yeah, they don't fade away or anything.
Yeah, they could be absorbing it from whatever's around them. I don't think they need to feed on us like some kind of energy vampire.
No.
Right, sorry I'm rushing this, but the chat's way behind and I'm trying to catch it up a bit.
Yeah.
Joanne says she needs to get a T-shirt. They look cool. Feel free.
Yes.
You want to get yourself a pair of sexy white leggings, Joanne, and then send me a picture of you wearing them and I'll splatter it all over the channel. Stephen says autumn T-shirt, Brett. Pat says if you would like to be regressed by him on one of his lives, just shout. I'd love to, because I'm not convinced I can be. I'd love. Well, I ain't convinced I can't be hypnotized. I just don't know whether I can be or not. Sam, would you do it?
That's a scary thought. Possibly, yeah.
I'd love to do it, just out of the fascination to see what I came out with. Because I've got a very twisted imagination. I might frighten the poor bloke to death. Julie?
Yeah.
I would most definitely do it. I won't go into a long detail, but my mother did it when she was younger, and I have some banger stories about what happened to her. So I'd love to try it.
Yeah, I'd love to be regressed and just see what I actually come out with. Because I'll live in a very twisted world in my head, and it might be frightening for him.
Oh God.
Kel says, I was watching one of a young boy of 3, was an Air Force pilot, and he could tell the crash plane model dates. Yeah. They're the past life cases that really convince me, Kel, are the really young kids who start talking about past lives and families and relationships and stuff, and they literally don't actually, it's something that a 3-year-old wouldn't have a grasp of, put it that way. This is the interesting one. I want Pat to type in. Pat says in her past life, she wasn't human. So I'm dying to see what Pat puts in the chat to what she actually was. Hi, Gay. Sorry, I'm only just catching up to the chat, Gay. Kel said I had a past life card reading. Not sure how that works, but I was an Egyptian female, a smuggler, and a Victorian lady. Well, look, on the bright side, at least you weren't Cleopatra or Mark Antony, which is what they normally claim. A lot of these people. Fairy says, hi, everyone, just popping in before heading off. I do believe in reincarnation. Me too, Fairy. Kel says, have you seen a film called Indigo? Fascinating film. Can't say I have, Kel. Ghostly Whisper says, I think so. Have any of you two watched it?
No.
No,
don't ring a bell with me either. Ghostly Whisper says, I think it's funny watching ghost hunters go into a non-English country speaking English to the spirits from the days when English was not a universal language. See, I'm of the opinion that it doesn't matter what language people were when they passed over. If you speak to a dead person, I think they can actually communicate in any language. I think something happens on that side where there's a universal language where they may say it in their own language, but some way it gets translated. They have their own version of Google Translate, if you know what I'm saying.
Well,
I don't know what your two's opinions of that.
This is where the theory of the technician comes in, which a lot of ITC researchers believe it to be Philip and Dave and a couple of others.
Yeah.
If you are trying to communicate with, say if you went to an investigation 100 miles away, and the next day you try to communicate with that entity in your house that you communicated with last night, the theory is that you communicate with Dave or Philip, and they communicate with the entity that you communicated last night. So they're the bringer together of communicators kind of thing. So maybe that language comes into that as well. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a theory, though. That's all it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mandy says Paul Gifford has a YouTube channel. He does past life regression and doesn't lead questions with people. He guides them through, but doesn't use suggestions. See, I'd love to have it done just to see what I said.
Yeah.
It'd fascinate me because a lot of these people who have it done, the ones you get to hear about are the really sensational ones where they claim they're Cleopatra and stuff. And that, you know, they don't put the boring ones on where somebody was a milkmaid in Germany or something. You know, and I'd rather listen to those type because I think those type are more convincing. If somebody just describes having a perfectly average life, I think that's more convincing than somebody sitting there claiming they were Cleopatra or Mark Antony or Julius Caesar, personally. You know, it seems less sensational. Andy and Becky, I have no idea how they are, Jackie. As far as I'm aware, they ain't been on YouTube for months. So I really don't know how they am at the moment. Oh, it's Paul Goddard, apparently, not Paul Giffard.
Yeah.
Apparently, Mandy's having trouble with autocorrect. Yeah, been there, done that. Friend once asked politely, this is Kel. Friend once asked politely if they could simply say we exist. It was clear as day. Played it to my daughter and she leapt out of a chair. Yeah. That's the best kind of evidence you can get, Kel, when you ask them to say something and they do actually say it. Sam tries her hardest to keep getting them to say Scooby-Doo, but ain't managed to succeed yet.
One day.
But one day it's going to come out and really shock her.
Yeah, I was at it's a famous workhouse, Limavady workhouse, and I wasn't actually in the actual building. I was around the outside, and I had the Texan PL 660 hacked radio on that. And next thing, they started coming out with hens, and I'm going, "What are you on about, hens?" And
hens
I was
as in chickens.
As in chickens. And then I go over, oh, there's a little park over there. Next thing, there was this apiary. And I says, hens. And next thing, they started going, hens. And I'm going, hens. It was funny. It was really
It's a good job people weren't in the park watching you. They'd have thought you were a complete nut job.
Oh,
standing there pointing in the aviary going hens. Somebody take her back to a safe room. Whisper says, I told one of my investigators not to step on any graves, and we had an older male saying through the camera that you can go to jail for that. See, that's one thing I've never done. I always find it a bit disrespectful to walk over people's graves and stuff, and you see a lot of people doing it.
Yeah.
Strange you said that, because the one time when we're still investigating it, where we think we got a full-bodied apparition, was at this church. And we met some visitors there, and they were able to tell us some of the history in that. And we were sort of wondering, why is there a grave across the front door of this church? Well, apparently the vicar or the priest was so disliked in the church that when he died, they buried him at the front doorstep so all the congregation could walk over his grave.
Walk over him.
Yeah, it is the weirdest thing ever.
Yeah.
But there's this, I had a cameraman with me, and he was on lookout to make sure that nobody came in while I was doing the spurt box, and to give me the shout if anybody came along, like.
Yeah.
And next thing, I pan around the camera, and there's this 7-foot dark figure standing right beside the cameraman, and he doesn't see it.
I can remember. I remember seeing that one.
The next day, I go back and I try to debunk it, and some people are saying, maybe it's the trees, maybe it's the pillar and that. But the thing is, it seemed to be right in the footpath, which is sunken, and it was covering the wall.
Yeah, and I remember that stream, son.
I still have to go on the phone and take proper screenshots, because what I done was I took still pictures of the computer, which I should take ordinary snapshots, and they'd be more clear. But I am definitely going to reinvestigate that.
Yeah.
But the grave was basically this figure was right on this grave. But the grave was right. The grave was actually turned into the flipping doorstep of the church, so everybody could walk on them as they went into church.
What video is that? Do you remember?
Oh, it was back, I think, 2018. I wasn't a very good investigator at the time, but that capture has puzzled me to this day.
Seago says, I've always associated graveyards with resting places more so than always active areas, if that makes sense. I love going in graveyards, Seago. I think they've got such a restful atmosphere. Well, most of them have. You do occasionally meet some that tend to be a little bit eerie or have a sense about them, but I find most graveyards to be ever so restful places to be in. Jackie says that is interesting. A lady did an investigation where a man had a stone seat at his wife's grave, where he sat with her every day for the rest of his life. You can now pick him up on the box. Gillian says she was agreeing with me over it not being appropriate to ask a spirit if or when they died. Oh, Miss Q's here, our resident non-psychic person. Hi, Miss Q. Do you know she actually made a massive comeback on the image section? She went from no points to nearly 4th place. On that thing, Ghostly Whisper says, I thought he was gay, lol. I don't know who she's talking about. Pat says, when I die, I'll come back and give you all the evidence you need. I've said that, Pat. I've said I don't care how many rules it breaks. I will come back and give people some kind of evidence that I'm still around being a nuisance. Rose says, Sam, that box called and you can get it on eBay. What's that box called and can you get it on eBay?
It's called the RTC2, and no, Rob, I have one of the last ones he's done, because he's starting to go on to other things. But he did do a video recently where, you can buy a kit and you can make your own box. You get the instructions, but you have to be willing to learn how to solder or know how to solder. He's got all the instructions there, so you can sort of make a box yourself.
You should do a video of that, Sam. You're fiddling with your own box.
I don't know what to say about that. I don't think that's appropriate for YouTube.
No, but you should get one and do a video of it, putting one together.
Yeah, put it on OnlyFans or something. Genie Mac.
Yeah, Sam, that is really scary. You know where OnlyFans is. Is there something you want to confess to, Sam?
No,
no, go.
Absolutely 100% no.
Hang on, let me sit to the side with a piece of paper. Go on, off you go. Confess your sins, my daughter.
I'm not going there. No.
Really quickly, Brett. Pat said to message her because she can arrange a regression for you.
Oh, brilliant! Definitely. Was that Pat?
Yeah, Pat Middleton.
Yeah, I will do Pat, definitely. Seago said, sorry, I had to sort the pets out. I'm being lucky tonight. Coco stopped doing a Desmond impressions now and's gone to sleep. Kel says, I mean, you can be drained by presence, but I don't think they feed of us. Yeah, I agree with I do agree that they can affect you, Kel. But personally, I don't think they actually need to feed off you to manifest. Yeah, I'm definitely serious, Pat. I'm definitely serious about it. Gay says I was regressed and saw blackness. That'd probably be me, Gay. It'd go all dark and then I'd see a lot of fire. Oh, Pat says she was a member of the Sealy Court. So Pat was a fae in a previous life. Lol, Brett, I just yelled out hello back to you. Miss Q says hello, Julie. I'm trying to get down these a bit so because I've caught up. Indigo about the grid and communication. It's got good bits around quantum physics too. Oh, I'll have to watch that. I like anything like that connected with quantum physics and stuff, because I think quantum physics, could in part explain some things within the paranormal or to help explain them. I don't know what your two's opinions are on that. Oh, and they'll sit there both looking really enthusiastic.
I got one on the loo, so I'm just muting.
Oh, right, okay.
They're done. It's all right. I'm not really sure.
What they doing?
Ready?
You always laugh before the plot.
Sorry. I know it's coming.
Miss Q says hello to us all. Hi, Miss Q.
Hello.
Have you seen What the Bleep? It's all about quantum physics. No, I haven't. And we've caught up with the chat now, so we can start discussing stuff.
Yay.
Yay. That was hard work going through all that chat. Is there any subjects either of you two want to bring up, or anybody in the chat wants to talk about?
I don't want to talk about boxes.
Are you sure? Well,
let's talk about how Sam knows about what was it called?
OnlyFans.
OnlyFans. Let's talk about how Sam knows about OnlyFans.
I've got to be honest here, whether you believe me or not. I used to follow the Onision drama.
Who?
Onision.
What's that?
Do you know what do you call him? What's the name of the guy that used to be on? Oh, my mind is taking a wander. He used to track down child abusers.
Oh, right.
Chris Hansen. I used to follow a lot of that stuff a couple of years ago, and then it wasn't doing my brain very good. So that's how I know about OnlyFans, because Onision has an OnlyFans.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that is the whole truth, nothing but the truth. So help me God.
And what else why are you smirking? You obviously got curious and looked at other things because you're smirking.
No. No, definitely not.
I'm gonna Google Sam's name on OnlyFans after and see what pops up.
You won't find me.
I'm gonna see if you're sitting there with a feather duster in a Naughty Maid's outfit.
I think you have to pay. That's what I heard from Alicia.
How do you know that, Sam?
And funny enough, how do you know that? Because it seems like that's correct.
I'm assuming.
I've got to be honest. I've never been on it once. Same as TikTok. I have never been on TikTok.
Either have I, actually.
I'm on TikTok.
You've got TikTok, ain't you, Julie? I've got to be honest.
Yeah.
I've never even looked at TikTok.
It's
And
rich.
OnlyFans I only ever heard of the other day, but I might have a look now. I'm going to find Sam in a Naughty Maid's outfit with the feather duster.
It was actually through TikTok that I found out about OnlyFans because,
Was it?
yeah, someone was talking about it once, and I'm like, each to their own.
All I've seen on TikTok is people singing to music for about 10 or 15 seconds.
It used to be like that. It's changed a lot since.
Oh, has it?
Yeah.
Partly people are streaming Paranormal Investigations and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And stuff. So, you know.
So how long are the videos allowed to be on TikTok?
Well, you can do live streams, but at the moment, they've just increased the time from 60 seconds to 3 minutes.
So welcome back, Kel. So you got to do a video in like 3 minutes.
Yes, but the 3-minute videos have to be pre-recorded and you upload them. Otherwise, you only get 60 seconds to record what you need to record.
So what did you manage to dust in 3 minutes, Sam?
Oh, I wouldn't touch. I'm slow tonight.
Yeah.
With the comeback. I usually have a smart answer, but
I've had nothing happen in the house for the last few weeks, by the way, which has been lucky. Everything stopped again.
I wonder what makes it like amp up and then stop.
I've no idea, but it was really weird. It suddenly started like here with the few things, and then it stopped again. So I'm hoping it stays that way now.
Yeah.
Kay says she won't join TikTok because it's Chinese, and I reckon they are recording everyone's info. Is it Chinese TikTok?
Originally, yes.
Is it?
Yeah, it's owned by China.
That's why Trump had an issue with it.
Yeah.
All right. So I didn't realize he had.
Yep.
Yeah, I think the only reason why TikTok came back it went into collaboration with another company or another company took it over or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how it was able to be saved at the last minute that the US market could still use it because it came to a stage, it came right down to the wire where people says, oh, you know, our TikTok accounts is going to be all deleted now because it's Trump banned it basically.
Yeah, because it was a security risk because there were a lot of people that were in government jobs and the army and that were using it at the same time. And so they had to bring in rules and say, okay, well, you know, if you're in the army, I think at one stage they weren't allowed to be in uniform. They weren't allowed to film on base or anything else. I think it's changed a bit now, though.
Why? What were they? Were singing along and doing their dance and stuff?
Yeah, in uniforms and stuff.
Miss Q said Sam could only dust off of Moo's living room. Level 5 optimistic ghost. Finish the rest.
Oh.
I'd got the level 5 optimistic ghost. Sam had got the cow.
Oh yeah.
Have you ever had anything strange like that happen to you, Julie, where you've done anything and there's been like a cow or something appear?
Oh God, I fell over in a burnt down church once. That was weird.
Really?
Yeah, it's weird too because it was only a very short embankment, and I was walking down into where like the church used to be, and just my feet went out from under me. Other than that, though, I don't think so. Yeah,
my two funniest have got to be Jason on top of Convicts Bridge at the Woods, at Wombwell Woods, when he nearly ran off the edge of the bridge because he thought that the bird of prey and the bat were going to get him, and then when I threw the pebble up and he came running down that bank like a goat. It was absolutely brilliant.
You didn't record that though, did you?
No. I wish I had done. And it was the same with the best piece of evidence I've ever had was at Roach Abbey. And we were actually setting up the camera at the time for to do a segment on the laser pen. And I'd got the laser pen projecting onto this wall, and it was projecting about 12 feet because it was a massive archway you're going. And I don't know if you know how how laser pens work, but they project the laser beam through tiny perforated metal to make them dots.
Yeah.
And I actually had one of those dots, and it was on the left-hand side of the wall, and it arced in a 12-foot arc like a comet from one side of the laser pen to the other on the wall, 12 feet. Now that is physically impossible, because that would have meant the little tiny perforation was moving inside the laser pen, and it was only the one dot, and it's streaked in an arc from one side to the other in a 12-foot arc. And I was literally setting up the camera as I got it, and if I'd have caught that, it was amazing, because that was technically physically impossible for a laser pen to do that.
That's the video I just watched, wasn't it?
Roach Abbey, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know the bit when we're in the archway with the laser pen?
Yep.
It was at the start of that bit there, as I was setting that bit up.
Must watch that.
Yeah, if you ever get the chance,
I missed it, and that is the best piece of paranormal evidence I've ever seen, because for the laser pen to do that, where the dot actually moved in an arc from one side to the other, is basically physically impossible.
Yeah,
and Jace was there, and he saw it as well. It was amazing. I really wish I'd have caught that on camera. That would have been a piece of footage of a lifetime. It really would.
Wow.
Kel says, I used to live in a place that I suspected haunted. Was 26 odd years ago. I was sat on the attic stairs, and an elderly woman in a cotton nightie walked through me to stand looking out the window. That sounds like a residual haunting, Kel.
Yeah.
I used to babysit for a couple, and they'd got this bloody German Shepherd dog called Sultan. And he used to start howling at the wall at about 10:30 every night. And I used to tell him, because it used to scare the crap out of me. And they say, oh, he's just playing up. And then years later, the woman who I used to babysit for admitted she actually saw a young girl appear on the stairs the one night, which was the wall that the dog used to howl at. The stairs was behind that wall. And she apparently heard the crying, got up in the middle of the night about 2-3 o'clock in the morning, because there was kids crying. She thought it was hers. Got to the top of the stairs, and she saw this little girl on the stairs. She says, and she went down the stairs and said, she said I was more concerned about how this little girl had got in her house than anything else. And she said to her, what's the matter? And she said she just dissolved in front of her.
Wow.
That's been happening in a house that actually Rachel used to rent, and it was before she was a paranormal investigator. She never experienced anything, but two residents after her, did it. One of them, they stayed 2 weeks, and I was in Rachel's house when just after she got the messages or phone call. I think it was messages, and this guy was asking her questions that had anything weird happened at the house, and she said no.
Yeah.
Now this guy didn't know she was a paranormal investigator. And he described an old lady was in the kitchen and disappeared and that. And on a couple of occasions, coming down the stairs in the morning to have the furniture in the sitting room had moved around. Heavy couches, heavy table, armchairs moving around. Now, basically, that wouldn't have happened because you wouldn't have heavy trucks in the street that it was in. It was a cul-de-sac, and a very narrow cul-de-sac. So you're not having heavy vibrations there, or anything like that. So, this guy was he was terrified. He says he couldn't cope with it anymore, and
wow,
it affected him pretty badly what he had seen. So we're hoping maybe to interview him at some stage if we possibly could,
Yeah.
Kel said that woman walked right through her, but she didn't feel negative. See, now you saying that, Sam, the old house that I was in before this one, where I had all the trouble with the shadow figures and stuff, and the coffee incident. That one, when I moved into it, about 6 months after I moved in, one of the neighbours asked me if I'd seen anything in the house, and I hadn't mentioned to her what was going on. And she told me that the family before them used to see a young girl in the house. Apparently, she manifested on the bed next to one of the girl's boyfriends the one night and scared the life out of him. He refused to go in the house ever again. He was sitting on his girlfriend's bed, and this girl manifested on the bed right next to him, sitting on the bed next to him.
It's funny how you get these stories after you move out. Like, you know,
I was still living there when she told me about 6 months after I moved in. But at this point, we'd already started to get the stuff happen. But I can honestly say, and on art, we never saw a young girl in that house once.
Yeah.
It was basically shadows and a dog. It was a shadow dog. Jay saw it at the top of the stairs a couple of times, and I saw it once. But it got pricked up ears.
My dad told me a story from when he was little, and I mean really little. He was probably about 6 or 7, and his parents. He was at a place, and I don't know, I think he said it was his uncles or something, and him and a couple of his siblings were sleeping on the lounge room floor at night.
Mm-hmm.
And what had happened was, he said he used to see a woman in one of the old high neck, long sleeve black gowns with the lace over it. She used to come out one wall of the room. She'd come over and stand and just watch them on the floor sleeping.
Singing "Eels Are Alive" with the sound of music.
No, just watch them sleeping, and then she'd walk off through another wall.
That would freak me out more than anything, Julie.
Yeah,
the fact you just sit there looking and then walk off. I'd rather that she'd say something than just stand there looking and then walk off. It'd be the silence bit that'd freak me off.
But he said he was the only one that saw it. No one believed him, but he knew it was real. Yeah.
Yeah. Stephen says, not forgetting the gravy incident, Brett. Stephen, I will never forget that. I will never forget that as long as I live. But what was weird was the night before, it had actually rolled the tub of gravy 8 feet across the work surface to Jason while he was making a coffee. And it rolled right the complete length of the work surface and come to stop next to the monks as Jason was doing the coffee. And then the following morning, it tried to poison my coffee with gravy. I'll never forget that one as long as I live. Honestly, it's the most revolting thing I have ever tasted in my life. Coffee and gravy. I'd never want to taste it again. It's
almost like they give you a hint of what they were going to do the night before.
Yeah. Jace was in the kitchen the one night, and the bin. I'd got like it was about, I'd say 3 feet high, a metal flip top bin. Yep. And it actually shot out from under the and tipped over on the floor in front of Jace. He used to open the cupboard doors when Jace was in the kitchen. It used to pick on Jace. That house did more so than me, because Jace used to freak. It used to frighten the life out of him. But yeah, that was where the mimic was, Joe. That went on for about 6 to 8 weeks, and that used to occur in batches where it would open. I'd hear the front door open, and Jace had come in going hello, hello, hello to the dogs, and the dogs would go running into the kitchen, and he weren't there. Because the first time he did it, I had a right go at him, because I thought he'd come in, wound the dogs up, and gone back out for 10 minutes to wind them up. And when he came in, I had a right go at him, and he didn't know what I was on about. But he did. But it only happened once with Jace. He actually heard me talking to him from the kitchen.
Yeah.
But I heard Jace about 8 or 9 times altogether that happened, and it used to happen in batches. Yeah, I actually got photos of Jason's shoes. We used to go to bed on the night, and we'd get up on a morning, and Jace's shoelaces used to be tied together in really intricate patterns while they were the side of the bed while we were sleeping at night. I actually took pictures of them. That was fascinating. That happened for about 3 weeks, where they and it was really intricate knots and like weavings of the laces. They used to get his 2 shoes and weave all the laces together. It's freaky, that house was.
Remember one time I was shooting a video, and my setup was kind of this way towards the kitchen. I was at the kitchen table and that, and I had a ball of paper thrown at me, and I actually rejected that piece of footage, and then I decided I'd look back on it, and I seen that something passed my head. And then I seen the ball of paper hit the computer and that.
Yeah, I remember that video, Sam. I remember the night you did that.
I'm thinking, I'm only here with the dog. I know I can't prove it and that, but I'm thinking, this is a new house and stuff. But there has been other stuff. I had a doll thrown at me. I had loaf of bread thrown off the table, and a couple of things like that. So you kind of ask yourself, you're living in a modern house. Is this energy contained in the stone that made the bricks? Or you're never fully in a new house, if you know what I mean. When you think
some it could even be contained in the wood the doors are made from. You just don't know.
Yeah.
I'll read some of these out that some people have put, because some of them are quite creepy. Gay put, my daughter's friends wouldn't go to our toilet without someone else because they were scared of the shadow people they saw in our hallway. No, I don't think I would have either. And then she put, also the same friends swear that the keyboard that was turned off played a couple of notes during the night. That's creepy. Miss Q says, I was lying in bed, not yet asleep, and I heard my quilt move. I opened my eyes and saw giant white hands. That'd have been it for me. No. I screamed and then went to sleep. Why did you get to sleep? I wouldn't have slept for months.
Yeah.
In the morning, I told my father, if I'd have seen hands in bed with me, I'd have freaked. He said, I wondered why you screamed. Gay says, didn't Jason? Yeah, Jason's laces got tied up a few times. Pat said, I've been in bed and felt the duvet lifting and someone got in bed. I didn't dare look. I'd have got excited, Pat, personally. Miss Q says it kind of felt nurturing, but I was more shocked. Now it ain't every day you see a pair of white hands appearing at you in bed. I got to be honest, Miss Q. Perhaps they were tucking you in, Miss Q. Still would have been terrifying. Mischievous ones too. They nick stuff and replace it days later in the precise place you went. Nutty of them not being. That was what we had at the old house. That was one of the things that used to happen. Hi, Tara. That was one of the things that used to happen a lot at the old house. We'd have things go missing, and then days later they'd turn up in really odd places. And sometimes they were quite large objects as well. Sometimes it was just like tiny things like keys or things, but sometimes it was quite big things that went missing. And then they'd turn up in really weird places. Really weird places. I found the coffee in the fridge the one day. They were obsessed with the coffee. I actually found the coffee jar in the fridge. There was a real obsession with the coffee in the house for some reason. I don't know why.
That's interesting, because a lot of people keep their coffee in the fridge to keep it fresh.
No, this was just, jar of freeze-dried. There's no need to put it in the fridge.
Yeah.
But it was in the fridge.
Wow.
Gay says, I've also having weird jumpings on the bed and then a pushing under the bed for the last 18 months. I'll get that a lot. Where I get that? Do you get that sudden jolt in bed?
Like when you're half asleep and you wake up and jolt, like you're rolling out of bed? Yeah.
Yeah. Do you get it, Sam?
Yeah, but I put it down to muscle spasms kind of thing.
Do you know what a lot of people claim it is? They claim it's when your soul leaves the body to astral travel, it speeds up in frequency to travel, and as it comes back into the body, it has to slow down, and that's what causes the jolt. That's what people who believe in astral travel believe.
It's a bit like, do you know when if you're into, I've done a little bit of kind of racing and stuff like that. When you are in a fast car and you put the foot down and you take off and the G-force hits you kind of thing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's scary. It's like a sudden fall.
Yeah.
And at that second, you think you're actually falling, and that's how you wake up.
Yeah.
And it's just a kind of a jolt. But I don't know. Is it, possibly does our energy wander around the place at night? I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Mandy's put there, Gay, have you had a dog? I still feel our dog occasionally getting onto the bed. It's really weird you talking about dogs, because it's just reminded me of something that happened to me years ago before I moved up north. My Sheba before Kaya was called Humphrey, or one of them, and he was nearly 20 when he died. And when he used to lie down, he used to go around in a circle for 10 bloody minutes, and then he'd sit down and he'd do this really weird as he sat down. And I was sitting in the living room the one day reading, and I heard it right beside of me. and it was that distinctive of a sound. It really upset. I just burst into tears, and it was about 6 months after he'd gone, and I literally heard it. I heard the oof right next to me as he plonked down.
No.
That was really weird.
Do you know? I had a weird experience with a dog in the kitchen, and you add the pitter patter and all the rest of it. And I says, "Oh, the dog's in the kitchen." I turned around, and I didn't see the dog. And then I looked in front of me, and she's asleep on her bed.
Sorry, I'm sorry, Gay. I'm just laughing at the comment you've just put. I'll get to it in a minute. Gay, this ain't the comment I'm laughing at. Not a sudden jolt. That's just spasms. I'll be awake in bed and it feels like kids jumping on the bed or something, pushing the mattress from beneath and shaking the bed. That's a bit freaky. Yeah. Whisper says, I saw an apparition of an old man when I was working a night shift at a hospital. He was standing next to a dying woman. I saw a bright light surrounding him. It was only for a few seconds. I've got a few friends who are nurses, and I know I've heard of a couple of stories off them where they say they've actually seen something leave the body, or some relative at the foot of the bed. Then Gay says, "No, I've had cats, and I used to think it was a cat." This is the one I'm going to laugh when I read the rest of these. "Now I've had cats, and I used to think it was a cat until things got more physical on or under the bed." I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Gay.
I don't think she means that way.
You had to go there, didn't you?
She's putting not me. Miss Q, our cat did a lap of our lounge room and we had friends over chatting, and Harry stopped and stared intensely, made a low guttural sound, then took off at high speed. Funnily enough, Kaya used to do that a lot in the old house. Kaya used to stand at the bottom of the stairs and stare intently up at the stairs and wag a tail at something. And that was where I saw that shadow appear at the top of the stairs.
Oh, that's just creepy.
She used to do that pretty much on a daily basis. She'd stand at the bottom of the stairs. Coco would just bolt through. Kaya would stand at the bottom of the stairs looking up, flicking a tail, like it was somebody she knew up there. Gay says, "Yes, I know what you were laughing at. I realised after I typed that." ROFL. We all looked at each other side-eyed and all went, "What the intercourse?" Gay, try putting a bundle of sage under your bed, might help. Good luck stuffing the batteries in the sage. Okay. Tara, about an hour ago, I was starting to nap and the couch shook like something at the end did a little push. Happens all the time when I go to bed. I don't do shit about it because I want to go to sleep. You know, that is actually quite common where people say, you know, it always happens when they go to bed and it's like they're trying to get, I think it's because they're trying to get your attention. The cat I have now has tracked things around my bed that I can't see. Kel says, "Oh," Gay says, "Lol," and Joe says, "Lol," and Kel says, "Oh my fucking god, lol."
Nightbot didn't block Tara, did he? Because all of her messages are gone.
What? No, Tara's still there.
No, yeah, but all the messages are gone. If you look on YouTube,
I can still see them.
Really?
They've all gone on YouTube.
Yeah, on YouTube. Nightbot, and he said, Nightbot said, "Tara Bell, how barbaric! Stop spamming symbols." But she didn't have any symbols. Oh, she's there. Yeah. Okay, she got a warning.
Thank God. Yeah, but I've set that so you can put up to 10 emojis and stuff, so it shouldn't be doing that now. I'm going to have another look at it tomorrow, or I might disable him altogether because he's getting on my nerves.
Yeah. Don't use them.
I'm in trouble. I know it's a bit rude calling you barbaric.
Yeah.
Just for putting a few emojis on. Mandy says we hear our dog's collar too. A disc would clink. I've also seen a man in full daylight who had passed. I've had a fair few experiences. I know what I've seen, sensed and heard. Yeah, I once had a woman get on my bus who never got off Mandy. And she was as solid as anybody. Behave, Tara, robot overlord is not pleased. Road Nickbot. Much better stop spanning symbols warning. What the hell is the matter with that thing?
Yep.
Yeah, I'm going to disable Nightbot for the next stream because he's getting a bit of a nuisance. And I don't really need him anyway. You know, Streamlabs bot's a lot more forgiving. I got a warning for too many smileys earlier. I actually set it, Kel, so you could use 10 smileys without it moaning. So I don't know why he's kicking off.
I don't know anything about these Nightbot things.
Yeah, I'm gonna turn him off for the next stream because he's becoming a pain in the arse. He has gone rogue. You're right, Miss Q. It has gone rogue because I actually did it while I was talking to Julie the other day, and I'd set it to 10 emojis and 10 symbols and stuff. We can take that robot.
I just let moderators deal with things. You know what I mean?
And every time he times one of them out, it deletes all the messages from the stream.
That is a pain in the neck.
Yeah.
It's becoming sentient. Yeah, it's going to send the Terminator after us next.
Did
but see, how interesting is it when you start talking to people? Now he's had to go at Matt.
Oh.
Let me see if I can turn him off. I'm turning him off because he's doing me nutting.
Yeah, because it's
give me a second because he's really doing my nutting. He's got to go.
Yeah, it's good to be able to read the chat after the stream too. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it is.
It's kind of part of the thing, you know. And if deleting all the messages, it's not good, you know.
Exactly.
Right, I've just removed him as a mod. Hopefully that should stop him altogether now. He's no longer a mod. He shouldn't be able to do anything.
I don't know anything about these things at all.
Yeah, that is just ridiculous because I spent ages setting it up the other day and he's just totally ignoring all the settings. Nightbots and crazy laughing Alexa would be good couples. They would, yeah.
Oh God, yes.
At least Alexa stopped doing that crazy stuff. I'll tell a lie. She started gabbling to me earlier on while Jace was here, and I had to tell her to shut up. She don't do it so often now, though. Now Mandy has been bottled. It's all right. I've turned it off now. I'll switch all my announcements back over to Streamlabs and do it via that because Streamlabs seems to be a lot more reliable and less costly. There you go.
Yep.
Let's put a stop to Nightbot. That'll stop him bocking people up. It wants to duck off. I was brought up in Birmingham. Me too, Mandy. Me too. There you go. Everybody's happy now. That can do the emails. Yep. That was just ridiculous. It was just getting over the top.
It was.
But ain't it amazing when you talk to people how many different people can tell you really weird things that have happened to them?
Yep. I love hearing people's stories.
Yeah. And I do. Because it was a poltergeist that got me into the paranormal.
Yeah, I love that story.
When I was a kid.
Yeah.
It's amazing how many people, when you say to them, what got you into the paranormal, and they go, oh, I saw a ghost once, or this happened to me, or that happened to me. It's amazing how many people.
Yeah.
And once they've experienced something, there's no way you can shake the belief in it after that. Once somebody's experienced it for themselves.
Oh, guess what? Very quickly.
No, you don't, Seago. Sorry, Julie.
I was talking to my sister. You know how I mentioned about my alien experience?
Mm-hmm.
I was talking to my sister on the phone the other day, and she wasn't there when we were talking about it. And I said to her, because we were talking about aliens, I said, talking about aliens, do you remember when we lived at Kingsvale? And she goes, yeah. And I said, one night, and she goes, hold up, before you tell me, let me tell you what I remember, and then we'll see if our stories match. So she told me what she remembered, and it was exactly what I remembered. So I know I'm not crazy. when we saw a UFO out the window. Yeah.
Was there any probing involved?
No probing.
You just saw the ship.
Yeah.
I remember
you and Boxy were a match made in heaven. See you go. Yeah, Gay says it was paranormal happenings in her house that got her into it. What were you going to say, Sam? Sorry.
Remember, I think it's 2 months ago now, where I done a spirit box session in the car before I went to the doctors. And next thing, what was coming through was, being probed and stuff. And then I just copped on after I came out of the doctors. I just went in for an injection. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's amazing the things that come through sometimes. It does make you wonder who's watching. Tara says definitely something at my work. I got alerts from the cameras of motion detection. I watched all of it, and it was like something was walking around the old store, triggering cameras. The place I worked, the shop I worked at, Tara, they used to have a little boy walk through the warehouse, and apparently there used to be a railway line ran through, and he was killed on the tracks before the shops. And apparently he'd been seen. I never saw him. But a lot of the girls who worked at the shop would not go in the warehouse on their own, and it had got a really weird atmosphere to it at the one end of the warehouse. Mandy said my son had an old lady he used to chat to. She used to sit on the bottom of his bed from him being a toddler up to his early teens. My son did, Mandy, but he used to do it up until he was about 7, and he used to call a nanny. And then the one day we were going through an old family album, and he pointed her out, and it was actually his great grandmother he was seeing, and he actually said that was Nanny who used to appear on that's Nanny who comes says hello to me at night, and he insisted on that up until he was about 7 or 8, that his great grandmother used to come and sit on his bed and talk to him. Kel says my mother told me a few years ago that she used me at 18-month-old to cease the poltergeist in their house. Nice.
Oh God.
What did they do? Heard what's that? Yeah, that's exactly what we used to get in the warehouse where I work, Tara. You'd hear things being moved around in the stock room, thinking somebody was in there. You go in and it'd be empty. Sam, it was funny how you're in a car park and you got results. It just goes to show you can be anywhere with a spirit box and get things come through. Anywhere.
Oh, yeah. Hopefully someday we're going to try and do it in a boat.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. It'll be interesting with all the water around you. Oh, Pat says Paul Goddard, who does the regressions, is about to join the chat over just shared to him. Cool.
Exciting.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I know Paul.
Yeah. I'll definitely try a regression, because I don't know if I can, because you don't know whether you can be hypnotized or not until somebody actually tries it on you. As long as you don't have me running around the living room pretending I'm a German Shepherd and barking, I don't care. See, this is the thing, Whispers. I have so many people to want when my time comes. Is there something in place that stops you doing that? Because everybody's got enemies of some sort who they think, oh, I'd love to come back and haunt them, but nobody ever really seems to, do they? Do you think it just all becomes petty once you pass over onto that side and it all just becomes irrelevant?
Well, my mother always told me she was going to come back and haunt the people that did her wrong, including us.
Yeah.
And she's gone and I haven't seen her, so.
Mm-hmm.
Touch wood.
Sam, I loved it when you used to take us for drives, and I used to love them drives around Derry when she was in the car. Miss Q, woof woof. Joanne says, I have a terrible fear of fire, and I think it's related to a past life thing. Joanne, you'll be surprised how many people have been hypnotized and things like that have come out.
Yeah.
Where they've claimed they've either drowned or died in an house fire, and they've suddenly got a fear of water and what's it. And then you get the people who've got really weird birthmarks, and then they start telling stories about being in wars and they were shot, and the birthmarks exactly where the the bullet went in, sort of thing.
I'll be right back.
Okay. I do, Tara. I think when people pass, they do see things differently. So you need to do some of your driving videos again, Sam.
Do you know what?
Miss Q says your driving videos rocked.
Do you know why I stopped doing that? It's because the car started to get a bit noisy. It's a bit.
I used to love them. I used to love them streams when he used to drive around.
Yeah, and talk absolute rubbish, or do a spurt box session in the car. Hello, Paul.
Hi, Paul. We've just been talking about regression and whether it'd be possible to, if I don't know whether I could actually be hypnotized or not, and what I'd actually come out with if I was. Why is that saying welcome to the complete? Welcome to the channel, not the complete. I obviously got shot in the arsenal then. Would you get it? Would you do it, Sam? Would you be regressed?
Yeah.
I would, but I'd be interested to see what I came out with. I know Julie said she'd do it, but I was reading a couple of days ago on a case. I'd read about it before, but it was a young girl in India, and she basically started telling her parents that they weren't her parents, sort of thing, and she wanted to go back to her husband. And they finally worked out this village where it was, and I think it was something like about 120 miles away. And they actually took her to this village, and she led them through the village, and she was greeting people as she went through the village, and by name, and she'd never seen them before. And when she went to the family where she claimed she was married to the guy, the guy's family, she called him by a pet name she used to. Definitely, Paul. You can definitely leave your email, most definitely. And she was actually greeting him with his pet name, and then she took him to a room in the house, and she actually moved a board on a floorboard and produced this box that had got all her treasures and her keepsakes in of his wife who'd passed away. Now nobody knew they were there. Yeah. None of the family knew they were there, but she took them right to the room and basically, produced this box for them. It was an absolutely fantastic story. I'll go away. I ain't having my COVID jab. Is Jackie back? Because she said you got timed out. Yeah, we've put a stop to Nightbot doing anything. Paul's in the chat now, Julie. I'm just saying, he says he's going to leave the email so we can talk about regression. Because you're muted, Julie.
Sorry.
Yeah, because me and Sam says it's something we'd be interested in doing. I don't know whether you would.
Absolutely, definitely, I would as well.
Because it'd be very interesting to see what I came out with, because I know there's people who've actually done it and then researched the stuff they've come out with in like history records, and it's been bang on accurate.
Did you take them out?
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's all right. And here's the chloroform tonight.
They're cooking breakfast, and it smells like Monica just burnt her waffles.
Oh, right. Okay.
Please.
Paul has done Zoom meets where he showed us and spoke of examples of children from India who have the marks and have spoken of their past lives. Yes, so some of these kids in India are amazing. Because if you think about it, these villages are 100 miles apart. A lot of these villagers don't know anything outside their village they live in. And yet these kids are going hundreds of miles, greeting people they don't know, like their old friends, and claiming them, they're meeting husbands and all sorts. But that one where she actually produced the box of treasures from under the floor was amazing. Absolutely amazing. But she used she didn't actually call all the family members by their names. She called them by the pet names that this guy's wife used to call them all by. Cases I'd love to see if I get more than blackness.
Did you see the one about the young child? I think it was a young boy. And he claimed that he had been a young woman who was murdered, and they'd never found the killer or her body or anything. And he took them to the place where the woman was buried, and they actually found where she was buried. That was amazing.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to find Paul's channel after and have a look. But he says he's going to email me anyway. So I can trace his channel through that. But
please, nobody in the chat tell me that there's shadow figures behind me, because it's kind of scary. Actually, it's darker on camera than it actually is in real life. Actually, it's quite bright in here.
Did you see that? It moved.
No,
the shadow.
No, it didn't.
Has Zippy's head moved? I'm sure Zippy's head was upright at the start of the stream.
Stop.
That's interesting. Actually, I thought it was too.
I can't skim back to have a look because I'm on what's it.
Hang on, I'll have a look.
Oh, stop. Do. Haunted Zippy.
Yeah, the thing at the back is definitely Sam's shadow. The naughty step is a space we know well. Well, Nightbot has actually been turned off because he's starting to get on my nerves. The crying boy has stopped crying. Sam, have you still got the crying boy and crying girl pictures, Sam?
Yes, they're not up tonight. I decided to change the pictures just to change my background a little bit.
You normally got that woman up, ain't you, that I thought was on fire? Because from a distance, it looks like a dress is on fire.
Oh no, that's an artist picture. There was the crying boy, and there was a black-eyed child, a black-eyed girl, basically. It was a weird picture.
Zippy didn't move. He was like that at the beginning.
Was he?
Yeah.
Paul.
Go, Sam.
Well, I've just answered Paul there, and it ain't come through. Yes, Paul. My email's in the channel description, in the about section, so you can email me through that. I don't think your email's come up on here, so you're probably best emailing me, and I'll pass it on to Julie and Sam as well. Yeah.
I saw it earlier and I wrote it down, so I'll give it to you guys when we finish.
Okay, thank you. I might have missed it while I was sorting stuff out.
Yeah.
But my email's in the channel description, Paul. But yeah, I'm definitely interested in talking more about regression.
Talk to Zippy through the spirit box.
Actually, interestingly enough, I'm pretty sure the bloke who worked Zippy is actually passed now.
Wow.
The original operator of Zippy. So it might, you never know, Sam. I'll tell you, I'd freak if he suddenly straightened his head now and started doing that with his mouth.
Oh, flipping hell.
Yes, he did die in 2011.
Yeah.
Oh.
Roy Skelton.
Ooh, thanks for that, Paul. Let's see if that's one's come up. Make sure his zip is undone, Sam, or he will be muffled. Do you think you've had a past life, Julie?
Absolutely.
And what have you any idea what it was?
Well, I've always said that I had an experience years ago, and I am sure it was a vision of something and it wasn't a dream or anything, but I can remember being a very small child in a very basic looking dress with no shoes and running up a cobbled street. And I went to my mother, who was holding a baby, and we went inside our house. But at the front of the house, it had like wooden steps up to the side into the front door. It was very weird, and that's all I remember.
It's weird. Have you ever had anything like that, Sam? Do you think you've lived before?
I just have a recurring dream, basically.
Of the same thing?
Yeah, same thing over and over again. you know, I was getting the picture of this big, you know, a big fancy house. Do you know these big houses where you have maids and stuff like that? And, I was a lady,
like a manor or a
a manor house, and I'm a lady that's on one of the horses, and I'm coming in the gate, and the dog startles the horse. Next thing, I flip back, get kicked in the head by the horse, and next thing that's it. And funny enough, I went through my childhood having to get brain scans for severe headaches, and I still get severe headaches, and I've had brain scans and that, and I can't figure out what it is.
Wow.
But I'm just putting two and two things together. That's all, you know.
This happens a lot. This happens a lot with people who think that they've, who think they've had this past life, and medical conditions in this life, they do believe are tied back to what happened to them in the previous one. A lot of things like birthmarks and gunshot wounds, and people with funny aversions to like fire and stuff like that.
I have a love for horses, but I'm terrified of them at the same time.
Yeah.
Do you know?
Gay says she used to have horrible dreams about jumping off the Sydney Harbour Bridge. I had that dream for years and years.
Wow.
That's a bit of a dramatic one, Gay. That's one you ain't going to forget in a hurry. Taz Bear says, I bumped into a Roman reenactor, and suddenly I saw myself as a Roman auxiliary, and he was my colleague. We both said, I know you, yet we never met before. See, that's more of the things I'm more tending to believe. You know, people who remember everyday lives, you know, not famous people. It's the people who come out with, you know, an everyday life, like a soldier or something like that.
Yeah.
They're the ones that are, you know, that tend to be a lot more believable in what they recount.
Absolutely.
That is really interesting, Tazbear. Seago says, I had an incredible, vivid, recurring dream that I was a pirate in modern times. I held a kid at sword point for kicking a ball at me, freak out over cars, end up in the doctor's office, and fire a warning shot at him for being slow and hard to understand. You need to keep off the cheese before bed, Seago.
Har.
Sam, I wonder if that's why I've had migraines all my life that were made worse when I had my car accident in 1986. You never know. I've had it. I used to have two recurring nightmares, and the one I think was, well, the one I'll tell you is a really quick one. Is I'm in a swimming baths, and then the shark comes up and it starts to swim towards me, and I can't swim, and I dash to the edge of the pool and I clamber up the ladder, and just as I get to the top of the ladder, it lunges at me like Jaws and snaps his mouth shut and literally just misses me by inches. But I nearly drowned when I was 14, and I think that's me just processing how close I come to drowning. The other one is the really weird one, and I'm with friends in a dream. Now, these friends in the dream are like long-term friends. In real life, I've never met any of these people, not one of them. But when I used to dream this dream, I was convinced they were like long-term childhood friends. And we were in these like little, they were almost carts, but they'd fly. And we'd fly around this area, and we'd land in this forest with this really creepy-looking house. And we'd go in the house, and inside the house, there'd be these big balls of giant maggots floating in the air, and they'd be writhing around, but bobbing up and down and floating. And there'd be like a day glow yellow ball and a day glow orange ball, and they'd follow us around the house. And I used to run around this house, and you'd get to this room in the middle of the house, and it was a 4-poster bed in this massive room, and it was smack bang in the middle, and there was a circle of candles all the way around the double bed. And as long as you jumped on the bed and stayed within the circle of candles, these things couldn't get in at you.
Wow.
And I always used to wake up when I was sitting on the bed with these things floating around the bed, not able to pass the candles. And I've never worked out what the hell that means. And I used to have that regularly. I had that for years. I ain't had it for ages, bro. I had that dream for years, absolutely years and years.
Let me tell you my dream and you tell me what you think it is, okay? Now, the first time I had it was when I was very little and I used to have my imaginary friend. It was the same house. And I had it the last time probably about 5-6 years ago. Now, this dream, in the house we were living in, you'd walk up the hallway and in the center of the house, we had a big dining lounge area. So in my dream, I was walking up the house in a singlet and knickers, and my dad's standing there talking to a man on my right side, and I couldn't see their faces.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a big wooden cuckoo clock on the wall. And my dad puts a dress on me, and then I go over and I sit on this brown lounge that we had, a fabric lounge, and two big hairy arms come out and just grab me, and then I wake up.
That one's weird.
Yeah, I don't know what it means.
That's as weird as my floating maggot balls dream.
No, yours took the cake.
Julie, I've never. The first one, I am convinced it was just my brain processing how close because I nearly did drown. Somebody had to pull me out and pump the water out of me. But that second one, I've never been able to work out what it meant ever. And it was weird because in the dream, these people, while I was asleep, I was convinced these people were my lifelong, childhood friends. Yet when I woke up, I hadn't got a clue who any of them were. It was really freaky. Tasbear said they went on a road trip in America with a friend in Georgia mountains. There's a tunnel you can't get to. I felt such distress. I cried. I knew I died in there. It was built in 1860. Tara says she thinks she died in another life from some kind of... I wish you wouldn't keep scrolling up like that. That's really rude. Let me scroll back up and find it again. Oh... I think I died in another life from some... Why does it keep jumping?
Some kind of boat accident in the ocean.
Yeah. From some kind of boat accident in the ocean.
Yeah.
If I could have my migraines cured, Gay, I'd be so happy. Me too. Tara Bell says, I absolutely love horses. So tough shit one kicked her in the head, Sam. I think that's what she's hinting at. Obviously, your fault, not the horses, as far as Tara's concerned.
I was actually very extra terrified of dogs when I was a kid as well.
See you later, Whispers, and thank you for coming in.
That's interesting, isn't it?
You were terrified of dogs, Sam?
Oh, yeah.
So absolutely. Do you think you had some kind of encounter with a dog or a wolf at some point?
No, well, it ties into the dream. The dog scared the horse.
Yeah, the dog scared the horse. Yeah.
I flicked back, the horse flicked up the legs, kicked me in the
head, and that was it.
Yeah.
Tasbear said the last one was he was watching a documentary about the city of Ephesus, I think that's how you pronounce it, and realised it was the place from his dream where he was the temple guard. Mandy says try selenite on your temples just as you feel the migraine. Come on. It doesn't stop mine, but I found them less severe since using selenite. So I've never heard of that.
I've tried other crystals.
Gay says what a horrible dream.
Yeah.
Seagull says that's pretty intense. I hope it ain't a future life memory, Jack, because I don't want to be chased by giant balls of maggots around an house. Thank you very much. Pat's also saying she's got an X-ray source, total doofus. So I think the general consensus is it's your fault and not the horse's, Sam. I think that's what they're trying to say to you. They won't accept the fact it was the horse's fault.
It actually wasn't the horse's fault. It was the dog's.
Gay says, when I was 11, I started having a dream every night that we were on a train and we all turned into balloons that were floating up and up. But then if we banged together, we burst and we're dead. That's a freaky dream, Gay. I don't think I have ever dreamed I've died. Actually, I have. I actually had a dream once, and I'm going back to just after Jay was born. And I worried for months after that it was prophetic. And I was actually on a street corner somewhere, and there was a big 18-wheeler lorry coming down the street, and it turned. I was standing on the corner, and it turned into the corner I was on, and it cut the corner, and it actually cut across the pavement and crushed me against the wall. And I actually woke up screaming and woke up everybody in the house. And I was paranoid for months after that. That was prophetic, and it was going to happen to me. Honest to God, that's the only time. That is the only dream I can ever remember dreaming when I died.
Why were you standing around street corners?
I was outside the shop, Sam. I was outside the shop. And as it went round the corner, the tray, he'd misjudged going round the corner. I weren't swinging my handbag or anything. And the trailer cut across the pavement and literally crushed me against the wall of the shop. And as it crushed me, I woke up screaming and woke up everybody in the house. And I was actually convinced for months after that it was prophetic and it was going to happen to me. It was that vivid. I was convinced. What's that?
Selenite. I think, Gay was asking what selenite is.
Well, that's big enough to shove in your mouth. I don't know about stick on your temples. You had to stick it in your mouth like a piece of rock and suck on it all the while you got a migraine.
I was going to say I have a wand, but then I won't because Brett is going to make something funny out of that one.
Is it a wand with batteries, Sam? Has it got a pet name like Roger?
Maybe that's
Tasbear said I had a dream where I was pinned to my bed and a black shape with green eyes was trying to kill me. I woke up to find my father screaming at something. I realized I wasn't dreaming.
Oh God.
That can happen where reality bleeds into your dream. Now, I think it's when you ain't fully awake and you ain't fully asleep, and what you're hearing starts to register in your head, and your subconscious starts to work with it, sort of thing. Gay says that dream was so freaky. I used to run into my mum crying every night for a couple of years. I ain't surprised, Gay. Then I learned to say it was just a dream. Kel says I was 14 in Spain on a horse ride. My horse bolted and I was hanging on for dear life. Then I got saved by one of the younger lads. Mortified. Seago, I used to have recurring dreams that I'd be queuing in a shop buying a sandwich, then wake up extremely frustrated that I don't have my sandwich anymore. I've had loads of dreams like that, Seago, where something nice is happening and I've woke up and I've just wanted to go back to sleep because it was such a really nice dream. It's a family show, Sam. Gay says, okay, I'll look into getting a small piece. I'll try anything at this stage, as I've tried most things natural out there, as well as medical. Do you know what, Gay? Since I've had my heart attack and they've put me on beta blockers and blood thinners, I haven't had one. Touch wood. I think it's because they've lowered my blood pressure down so low and thinned my blood out. It's helped with mine.
Look at Paul's comment.
I had a dream that I won the lottery. I remembered the numbers and had to go. To my amazement, on Saturday night, I didn't get one number. Yeah, that'd be the kind of dream I had, Paul, to be honest with you.
Yep.
That would definitely be the kind of dream I had. Good thing it isn't too expensive, guys. Sorry, just on the horse subject, lol. And ones come in all shapes and sizes.
That they do.
Have you ever dreamed about winning the lottery or had a dream connected with lottery numbers?
No.
No, I ain't either.
No.
My sister had a dream about it the one night and got 4 numbers. 4 numbers out the dream, but you needed 6 in the bonus ball to, get the lottery. You needed the 6 to get the lottery, but she did quite well out of it.
Wow.
Brett, did you have a glimpse of the other side when you had a heart attack? No, because I never passed out, Taz. I was conscious through the entire thing. I actually had my NDE when I was 14, and I had my drink spiked, and my heart stopped twice in the ambulance, and I had an NDE then, but it was nothing like your typical NDE. It was basically some really annoying ginger-haired woman who kept telling me to bugger off. there was no tunnel and there was no seeing relatives. The only thing that I would say was consistent with a lot of NDEs was, one, the fact I was told to bugger off, and two, wherever I was really bright white light. And that's the only, there was no traveling through a tunnel or anything like that. It was just 1 minute I was at a friend's house, and the next minute I was lying in this bed in this massive glowing white area with this ginger-haired woman sitting at a desk. And then she came, sat on my bed and started shaking me and telling me to get up and bugger off. It was not your typical NDE at all. And I actually swore at her before I left. And I don't even remember how I left. That was the last thing I remember, was swiping out at her and telling her to F off and leave me alone. And then the next thing I remember is waking up in the hospital bed. I don't even remember leaving the place. That is the weirdest thing of it. Taz says he had an NDE twice, both due to sepsis. Taz says he won 40 quid. That was the start when the lottery began. Now I don't, guys. Since I've had the heart attack, they've put me on beta blockers and blood thinners, and I think it's the beta blockers that have done it, because they've reduced my heartbeat right down to 60 beats a minute. My heart is going as slow as that can get it safely. That seems to have helped with my migraines. I haven't had one.
God, you're lucky.
Gay says, when I had my open heart surgery back in 1990, I was hoping to have an OBE, but now I just woke up in lots of pain. Joanne, I had a dream I was at a barbecue and an asteroid was flying by and just missed us. I felt scared when I woke up.
Oh, God.
So where did it land? In the barbecue? Kel says, my NDE was no tunnel for me, and all I saw was lights, me in an hospital bed and a vague vision of a figure in a bright light. That's very similar to what I saw, Kel, except I woke up in an hospital bed. I was in a bed in this really bright area with no walls, floor or ceiling, and there was a woman in a very white, smart uniform, is almost like a woman in a business suit, but it was white, and she'd got ginger hair, and she was sitting at a desk, a pure white desk with her back to me, and then she realized I was awake, walked over to the bed, sat on the bed, and she kept shaking me and going, you can't go to sleep, you've got to get up and leave. And she kept doing it, and I felt really tired, and in the end I just swiped at her and said, will you off and leave me alone? And then the next thing I woke up and I was in an hospital bed the following morning.
That's
and I was unconscious for 24 hours. But from the time I remember being with my friends to the time I remember having that experience with that woman to the time I remember waking up in the hospital, only seemed like a few minutes apart. But I'd been unconscious for 24 hours.
Wow.
But that's all I can remember is the space of it seems like about 3 minutes was the only time in 3 minutes I went from friends to this woman to hospital bed. But I was out for 24 hours and I can't remember any of it apart from that woman.
I remember getting my appendix out and I was under anaesthetic. And when the anaesthetic wore off, I realised I told one of the nurses that she was the most beautiful woman in the world and I loved her. That was awkward. That was awkward, but she took it well.
Yeah.
But I was red as a beetroot. Yes, I remember telling her in the lift on the way back to the ward that she was the most beautiful woman in the world and I loved her. And I was shy back then too.
But I was exactly the same, Kel. I don't recall how I got there and I don't recall how I left. I was just 1 minute with my friends and the next minute I was lying in this bed with white sheets and there was just a bright white glow all the way around me and there was a woman sitting at a desk and there was no sense of a floor, no sense of walls and no sense of a ceiling. It was just vast, bright whiteness with this desk. And she was sitting at it with her back to me. And she weren't dressed like a nurse. She'd got like a proper business, like a woman's very smart business suit.
Yeah.
But it was pure white. And she'd got long, wavy ginger hair. She sat on my bed and she kept shaking me. And she kept saying, you can't go to sleep. You've got to get up and leave. And in the end, I swiped at her and went, off and leave me alone. And then the next thing I know, I woke up and I was in hospital.
Do you know the picture I was getting? Bruce Almighty, and when your man was mopping the floor in the big white place.
Sam, that was exactly what it was like.
Yeah.
That was exactly what it was like, but there was no sense of there being a floor. There was no floor, there was no walls, there was no ceiling. It was just like being in an unending white. That's what it was like. There was absolutely no sense of a room or walls or floors or ceilings. It was just gigantic white vastness.
That's incredible. You hear of people having near-death experiences all the time. I find them fascinating because I've never had anything happen like that.
Well, I've nearly died 3 times. I've nearly drowned. My heart stopped twice in the ambulance, and I had another occasion as well. And I'm convinced that I've always said, you know, there was a reason I was kept here. It was to torture you lot on YouTube, basically.
Yeah, of course.
I've got to have been kept here for a reason.
Yeah.
I've had 3 very, very close escapes.
Yep.
Very
it's
close.
Not your time. Not your time yet. Yep.
See, Streamlabs is working now. Look, he's copying up Sam's Watsy. Seagull says, I've had many NDEs and jealous of folk who've had these. I've had many NDEs and I'm very jealous of folk who've had these experiences. Mine was weird. Mine was weird because there was a lot of people say, you know, they float down a tunnel and they see the loved ones at the end, and there's angels and godly beings. And now I don't meet God. I met this annoying cow with ginger hair who just wanted me to get out of bed and pee off, basically.
Do you know what? Anytime I ask on a spirit box, can you see darkness or light? I always get light.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that too.
And I asked, "What can you describe what's around you?" And they said people.
Yeah.
A number of times I got that same answer.
Well, when she was the only person in that entire vastness for me. And I've often thought, when I'll snuff it, I'm going to have to go back and meet her and apologise for swearing at her.
You know, it's funny. The only one time I've ever had that question answered for me, what is it like where you are? Mm-hmm. Someone turned around to me and said, love. And that was the only word that I had come through. And it's the only time it's ever been answered. Could have been like not connected to it, but I just thought it was really interesting. Yeah.
I've had a response like that about a month and a half ago, actually.
Did you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hi, Jane. But yeah, if people say to me, what's heaven like? I say, I can't tell you, because I'm convinced I don't get there. I'm convinced I was at some kind of halfway point.
Yeah.
You know, but where I went, there was just me and this woman. That's all there was.
Maybe where people go when it's not their time, it's kind of like getting you ready to send you back. Yeah.
She was adamant. She kept shaking. I was really tired. I was lying on this bed feeling really tired. And she kept shaking me and saying, you can't go to sleep. You've got to get up and leave. And that was all she kept saying to me over and over and shaking my shoulders. And I just totally lost my temper in the end. And I just flung my arm out at her and I went, will you cough? And that was exactly what I said to her, Julie. And I can still remember it to this day. And I was only 14 at the time.
Yeah.
And I can still remember what she looked like.
And the lady probably says, send this one back. I can't continue with it.
Sam, I cannot remember a thing about it after that. That is the last thing I can actually remember is me swiping my arm at her. She jumped back and I went, William. Oh.
She sent you back and now we're stuck with him.
Yeah. Yeah, Tara, I'll be sent to purgatory next time for swearing at angels or whatever they were. But I didn't get any sense that she was, you know, like anything. I didn't get a sense she was an angel or anything like that. There was no holy feeling or, you know, anything like that. To me, she was just a woman in a white suit who was really, she actually came across as a very authoritarian, more so than, you know, loving energy being. She came across as quite bossy.
I
But I can't remember going. There was no tunnel, and I've got no sense of arriving there, and I've got no sense of leaving. None whatsoever. I remember the specific events unearthly, but nothing unusual really happened around them. What's really weird though, after I had my NDE, I lost all fear of death. I've got no fear of dying. I don't want to die, I don't want to go and leave my son here on his own or anything like that. And I really don't want to go horribly if I can help it, but I've got no actual fear now of the actual process of dying. No fear at all. If somebody said to me tomorrow, you're gonna die tomorrow, I'd be perfectly okay with that. I'd have no fear of it happening. None whatsoever.
Yeah, I'm not scared of dying, as you said. I'm scared of dying horribly, like in an accident or cancer or something horrible. But the only thing that would probably be me wanting to stay here at the moment would be, the kids mainly. It's the earthly connections. Yeah.
My son's 27, but I still wouldn't want to leave him on his own, sort of thing.
Yeah.
That's the only thing with me. But for the actual process of dying, I've got no fear about it.
Yeah.
And I know that there's people out there who are terrified of dying. Jane says, did your ND make you more spiritual? It made me more spiritual. It didn't make me any more religious. And because I'm not religious, I in the Christian sense, I believe that's why I think if I'd have been, a diehard Christian, I may have seen angels and stuff like that. I honestly believe that they show you that I was shown what I expected to see, sort of thing. I weren't expecting to see angels and fluffy clouds and stuff, so I don't see them. Just this bossy woman. But it definitely made me more spiritual. It certainly didn't make me more religious, because I do class spirituality and religion as two separate things.
Oh yeah,
most definitely. So, what was your NDE, Jane? See, I love listening to other people's stories about their NDEs.
I misheard it at the beginning, and I thought it was one of them medals you get from the Queen. That's an OBE, isn't it?
Yeah.
I misheard.
But an OBE is also an out-of-the-body experience.
All right.
An OBE is different to an NDE. An OBE can happen anytime. It can happen while you're sleeping, or it can happen while you're sitting in a chair. An NDE is a near-death experience, and it's one that you experience while you're actually in the process of dying. Yeah, I had an NDE, not an OBE.
Yeah, and you don't get a medal.
My heart stopped when I had mine.
And you don't get a medal when you have a near-death experience.
No. You only get one if you have an out-of-the-body experience. Seagull says, I'm not particularly fearful either. I try to remain aware of the moment and appreciate things. Exactly, Seagull. It does make you appreciate the moment. Julie, the kids are fine. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
Isn't how loud they are for you.
Nah, don't worry about it. That's life. Mandy says, as I've said before, we aren't supposed to see if there is another side that we see offer us a better existence than one folk have, else we would all jump off this planet. Agreed, Mandy. Me too, Brett. I had when I was in theatre, having my daughter in 2002. Welcome back, Joanne. So what actually happened, Jane? Did you see any glowing tunnels or anything? Because I didn't. I just got to the glowing area. I never went through any tunnel. There was no even into the tunnel. Nothing. I was just there, and then I wasn't again after I told her to F off.
There are a lot. Sorry, Sam.
It's all right. Go on ahead.
I was just going to say, a lot of people say that they don't see a tunnel, don't they?
Well, I never did. What were you going to say, Sam?
I recently went through an episode. I had vertigo and I collapsed on the street. And you're there lying there going, delete browser history. Just joking.
Joanne says, I think you went into the waiting room, Brett. I honestly believe, Joanne, I was in some kind of halfway state. I think it was the place where you go when you know you're not actually quite there. And, you know, you've got a choice of coming back, because I got the impression that if I'd have just ignored her and gone to sleep, I would not be here now. But she was adamant that I couldn't go to sleep. I'd got to wake up and leave. She was adamant, to the point she was shaking me and tapping my face. And that was what annoyed me. And I just lashed out. I can remember her doing it now. She was lightning quick, because I swiped at her like that, because she was doing all this business and shaking me, and I went like that, and I went, will you off? And as I did it, she fled back. She jumped back. She was quick. And then that was it. I remember nothing until waking up in the hospital room. I remember no leaving, or I don't even remember leaving. I don't even remember getting there. I was just there, and then I weren't.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
This is what I look forward to when I get to the other side, is finding out all the bits and pieces that we're not allowed to know, or that we don't know on this side.
Yeah.
The process of getting to the other side and what it's like. And
yeah, but that'll piss me off, because once I've seen it, I'd want to come back and do a stream about it.
Record.
And I'd want to come back and grass the afterlife up.
Yeah.
Hey,
true.
folks, this is what happens.
Do you know what I'd love to do if I came back?
Could have been Stephen.
You know, go to them seaside towns where people are having their ice cream cones and just blow into the ice cream cones and have the ice cream explode all over their faces and that.
Yeah. Running amok.
See, that's what that was the thing, Stephen. There was no like religious epic feeling about it. It was just totally down to earth and normal for me. I was just lying in this bed, and this woman was annoying the hell out of me, and I just swung at her and tried to flap her off and told her to F off, and that was the end of it, sort of thing. Only a few people see a tunnel in a past life regression when it's their moment of passing. Yeah, Paul, I never saw one. But I always say that, because people always say to me, what is the thing you remember the most? And I always say, what I remember the most is the light. Not because it was, you know, bright and dazzling and all heavenly. It was because it was bright, but it didn't hurt your eyes. It was like you were in this totally vast space with millions of fluorescent tubes lighting it up. Because it was all uniformly lit. There was no shadows or anything. It was just pure white. Yeah. And even though it was a really bright light, you could just look normally, like I'm looking at you now. There was no squinting or nothing. And that is what, of all the weird things to remember, that is the thing I remember the most, is that the light didn't make me squint, even though it was bright. And what a weird thing to remember.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
I think I'm in between dimensions right now, because I'm actually sitting in a very bright room.
Yeah, and it looks quite dull. You look like you're about to tell a story from the Twilight Zone.
Those energy saving bulbs, they suck big time.
Yeah.
You know, you can't beat the tungsten light. I know it's not good for the environment and that, but I just don't like the light of the energy saving bulbs.
Yeah. Mandy says there must be a reason we have such big brains yet you so little. I believe this. I'm going to go down. I'm going to put your tinfoil hats on, everybody. As you know, I believe that at some point in our past history, we were genetically modified by somebody else, and I believe we've been designed that way to make way for future things they've got planned for us. I think when, you know, as mankind develops more and more, we will start to develop more things like telepathic powers and stuff like that. and I think that has been we've been modified to make sure our brains have got the capacity ready for it. And I think a lot of it's already there, and people like mediums and psychics and stuff like that just know how to tap into it before other people.
I have thousands of pounds worth of equipment. I'm sitting here with candles.
Yeah. Sod's law, sir. Jane, Mom said I saw the light, but I was told it's not my time yet, and I came back. Yeah. Yeah, there was definitely light where I went. It was just vastness. There was no scale to it whatsoever. It was just unending.
When you were there, Brett, did you see anyone else or any other beds or that?
Nope.
Or was it just
Nope.
you, her, and the desk and that?
It was me, her, the bed, and the desk in the middle of this huge white vastness.
Yeah.
And Norman Freeman with a mop.
Yeah.
Morgan Freeman.
There was no sense of a floor, Sam. Even though there'd got to have been a floor. Obviously, she was sitting on a white chair, but there weren't a sense that there was a floor there. Everything was just exactly the same white. There was no sense of there being a floor or walls or ceiling. It was just us in the middle of just this vastness of white.
Well, it's a bit like what we believe in the paranormal. No time or space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's probably the best way to describe it, Sam.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is probably the best way to describe it. And welcome back, Guy. And it was just the most dazzling white colour you've ever seen. But it wasn't painful to the eyes. You could just look normally. It was a proper bright, glowing white.
It kind of puts what's the word I'm looking for? A lot of people say that time in the spirit world moves very differently to our time here on Earth, and stories like yours makes that ring true, because as you said, it seemed like you were only there for a few minutes, but yet back here it had been 24 hours.
Well, it was 28 hours actually.
28, yeah.
But I always say 24 because that's a nice round day figure. But apparently it was 20. I was out for 28 hours.
Wow.
But I have of them entire 28 hours. I have a recollection of 3 minutes roughly.
Jeez.
And absolutely nothing either side of that happening. But there was definitely no religious feeling. But I've never been religious anyway, in the Christian sense of angels and demons and stuff. So maybe my brain weren't expecting to see angels because I don't believe in them.
Yeah, of course.
Something like the time difference of Narnia. Yeah, Stephen, it really was. Because when they said, I literally thought, when I came around in the hospital bed, I was convinced I'd only been there like an hour or something. And my mother was sitting beside me, and I'm like, what time is it? And my mum was crying because I'd woke up, and she told me, she'd been sitting there all night with me and all day, and it was 28 hours altogether.
Wow.
From the time I blacked out until the time I came around. And in that point, I died twice, and they had to defib me twice to get my heart going again. And I believe I was dead for a total of it would have been about 3 minutes.
Oh God!
With the 2 times, and that's all I can remember is a space of about 3 minutes in the entire 28 hours.
Hello, Kat. How are you?
I am Kat.
Taz says, "Mommy's really psychic. She always knew when I was up to something as a kid." Yeah, I think all mothers possess that psychic ability. Seagull says, "My mum is too. In all seriousness, she will have to answer my questions before I've even asked them."
Yeah, I get that a lot with my sister.
Yeah.
Do you know what I was?
Go on.
Do you know what I was wondering? I was wondering if you get a vision of something that's about to happen, like I was doing a driving lesson, and all of a sudden I stopped suddenly on the road. And next thing, this car came across in front of me, and the driving instructor went, "How the hell did that happen?" I says, "I don't know. I just knew that car was going to cross in front of me." Like, is that a dream? Is that a dream? While you're still awake?
But how can it be, Sam? Because you're still seeing something in the future.
That's you tapping into that other part of your brain that we don't normally use. Yeah.
Tara said she had overwhelming feelings of love, joy, and peace. I didn't get any of that, Tara. I can honestly say, hand on heart, my entire 3 minutes, wherever I was consumed with complete annoyance. I was totally annoyed the entire time because this woman was constantly harassing me to leave. There was no love and peace. I was fuming that this woman just would not leave me alone. It's bizarre. She'll be looking down all preoccupied. Then she'll answer something I was thinking about before I get the chance to. I've always had the ability where I'll think of somebody and like I've said the other week, and I'll either see them or hear about them within 24 hours. I can honestly say I've never had a vision as such. So I've never had any situation where, I've seen something and then it's happened that I can remember offhand. No, I believe that, Jane. I believe it wasn't my time. And I believe wherever they sent me was like an holding pen until they could bugger me off back again. That's how I've always viewed it.
I had this funny trick. My friend used to call around unexpectedly, and I used to be standing at the door just waiting. And to say, "How did you find out? How did you know I was about to pull up?" I says, "I don't know." Yeah. And she says, they said, "That's flipping scary, like." But I would just be standing at the door. I'd just open it up. When they'd arrive, I'd be sitting here, and then all of a sudden I would just get up off the chair and go out to the balcony and just see the car passing.
Yeah.
Each time, just time after time, and I'd just go down, and I'd be standing at the doorway.
Yeah.
Knew you were
coming. I'm the same, MCAT. I don't claim to have any psychic abilities whatsoever. The only thing I will say about myself is I can be very intuitive. But, if people want to class that as psychic, that's up to them. But I don't class myself as having any special psychic ability. I just think I'm a bit intuitive in some way.
I think if our brain wasn't preoccupied with other things and we were in a natural state, I think we would have more abilities.
Yeah.
Like I think we've some of our abilities we've left dormant because we depend on other stuff.
Yeah.
Like
I'll tell you what would be interesting with Paul with the regression. I wonder if it would be possible to unlock something while you're hypnotized. If you're directly in touch with the subconscious, would it be possible to manifest something using hypnosis, tapping into something you can't normally access?
Like switching on your sixth sense.
Yeah.
That's interesting. That's really interesting.
It'd be very interesting to hypnotize somebody and then say, write down what you're seeing or experiencing now. Because I presume you could still do it while you're hypnotized.
Yeah.
It would be very interesting to see the sort of things you come out with.
To see if you
when you were tapping directly into the subconscious.
Yeah, to see if you can use precognition, you mean? Something that might happen in the next day or so. Or that'd be interesting though.
Yeah. See, I always say about the tarot cards, Jane, that they are intuition based. There's nothing psychic. People who claim they've got psychic abilities because they read the tarot, I don't believe that's true personally. I believe that they are a springboard for your intuition, and that they'll trigger intuitive parts of your brain. I don't personally see that as a psychic gift reading tarot. Yeah, I'll be happy to try it, Paul. I'd be more than happy to try it. It would be interesting to see if there's some way of unlocking latent abilities by tapping straight into the subconscious through hypnosis.
Yeah, absolutely. Close the door. Oh, bugger.
What's Seago said about his granddad? I do recall once feeling like I needed to call my granddad. What are you laughing at, Julie? Call my granddad. We're not overly close, and down talk on the phone often. I took my intuition to heart. He'd fallen and broken his hip the day before. It wasn't the usual, like I should call my granddad. I haven't talked to him for a while, feeling I was very panicked and had a terrible feeling something bad had happened. Do you know what's really weird? I have had this really weird feeling all week that something horrible is going to happen. I have had this really horrible, oppressive feeling all week that something horrible was going to happen.
I hate that because when I get that, something happens. I've got some stories in that for another time. I wasn't laughing at the comment, by the way. Xavier had just finished going to the toilet and Charlotte went in there. And she's like, oh, my God, it reeks.
You have a good night, Paul, and definitely, yeah, just email me and we'll set somewhere up, definitely. You know, I'm game to try anything. I really am. All in the spirit of science and experimentation. Good night, Paul.
Good night, Paul.
Night, Paul.
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
But that would be very interesting if he can hypnotize me and see if I can do something while I'm under hypnosis. To see what I'd write or say.
Definitely. I've always been fascinated with, you know, the past life regression and hypnosis and that.
But I am convinced that what people class as psychic powers are definitely locked within the subconscious mind.
I do too.
That's the key to them.
Yeah,
that is definitely the key to them, is the subconscious.
Yep. I believe everyone has it there somewhere. It's just that some people have it turned on and some don't.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's why I always say to people, I believe everybody has got some form of ability. I ain't saying everybody's got the same ability, but I think everybody's got varying abilities and they just haven't learned to tap into them yet. I think anybody could train themselves to manifest some kind of ability if they go about it the right way.
You know what I was saying earlier about people abandoning abilities and stuff like that? It's a bit like people, you know, used to research a lot. Now people just pick up the phone and just Google, you know?
Yeah. Sorry, go on, Sam.
So much is at your fingertips. Even when you're watching the television, you see an actor and you try to find out are they still alive. You just Google their name.
Yeah.
You know?
The only thing is with the research that you do with the ITC and a lot of the stuff with the paranormal, most of what you find out can't be found on Google. You've got to go out and you've got to experience it and experiment with it yourself.
Yeah, and a lot of it isn't. It's not YouTube. It's not YouTube sort of friendly. You know, it's a lot of boring stuff sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chaz Bear says, what you got to think about UFOs? We actually did a stream, was it the week before last? On UFOs and the military. Personally, I am a big believer in other life out there and UFOs and stuff like that. Sam thinks we're all barmy, and I think Julie's a believer as well.
I'm a believer.
Yeah.
I still don't have a back garden, actually. Which I'm very disappointed. That was funny though.
Yeah, I'm a big supporter of UFOs and alien life.
Yeah, I don't think there's just one.
I actually talked Julie into researching alien abduction a week ago, and she did really well with it.
Thank you.
Really well with it. We were just making the point that people who sit there and don't research the paranormal really need to go out there and do it, because you can self-educate yourself on the basics in a week of a subject quite easily. You know, it literally is just research, and you'll be surprised what you come across.
Yeah. I mean, like I believe in unidentified flying objects. That's why I bought night vision binoculars and stuff.
MCAT says, I believe in UFOs when I can see one close enough to read its license plate. I'm the same with you, Joanne. And I don't think it's as far away as people believe. I'm convinced it'll be at least within the next 50 years, it'll all be common knowledge. Because I think at the moment we're being conditioned to accept it. I think that, there's a worldwide effort out there by all the governments to desensitize people to the fact that this might be a reality.
Are we supposed to get them documents from the US, the Pentagon today, is it?
Yeah, I think it was today.
Yeah.
As in the 26th, as in tomorrow? Or was it supposed to be today?
I don't know the exact date.
It's the 25th or 26th of this month.
Tasbear says license plate says Uranus. Seagull says my granddad told us stories as kids of seeing a UFO in Saudi Arabia. He swears he saw them close enough to see details on the ships.
A bumper sticker. Don't follow me. I'm
described
lost.
Them at length too. I have only ever seen one thing that I would describe as a UFO, and I was with my son's mother at the time, and she actually came on the channel a few weeks ago and told the story of what we saw. And that thing was huge. It was massive. Absolutely massive.
I was going to say a bumper sticker on it. Don't follow me. I'm lost too.
Yeah. Gay thinks it's the 26th. I know it's sometimes. Well, it is the 26th now. We're 10 minutes into the 26th. So Sam was technically correct. We are getting the details today, or Julie, whichever one said it. Was it you or Sam who said it? Julie?
Me, I think.
I'm just looking at this story online, but I don't know if it's the most recent one. June 24. So it must be. So I think they've released it already, but they haven't confirmed that UFOs are real in the report.
Yeah, they won't. They won't. Or as far as any government will go at the moment, and particularly the military, is all they will say is it is a unidentified flying object.
We already knew that.
They don't even use the term UFO anymore. I can't remember what the modern term the military uses is, but it means the same thing.
Yeah. The story I just read. Sorry.
Basically, they're going to tell us what we already know.
Yeah. The story I just looked at, it had a basic rundown, and they said pretty much what the report says is that the government is saying it could possibly be one of 5 different things, which includes space clutter, unidentified craft from another country, possible UFO. So
that's it. MCAT UAP, unidentified aerial phenomenon. That's what they call it. Mandy says I've been once been an IFO. I have the bruises to prove it. The last time I flew, because I haven't mastered the landing shit. Yeah, UAP. It's UAP. SEGO. Unidentified aerial phenomena. Yeah, that's the term they use. Whereas ufologists prefer to use UFO. But yeah, I think there's a lot that's going to come out in the next couple of decades. But there's even the Roswell, they've released a lot of the Roswell stuff, but a lot of it is still heavily redacted. Now you've got to ask yourself if that is if that is the fake that the government claims it is, why do they need to heavily redact it? Because if it's a fake, there's nothing to hide. There's absolutely nothing to hide. That occurred in 1947. Anybody that's going to affect his lungs since gone by now.
There's a good clue there, because when they say if it's it could be possibly an aircraft from another country. If that's a possibility that they're putting out there, that means that they're holding back something, because you talk about national security and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. To be honest with you, if you think about it logically, if they genuinely believed it was an aircraft from another country, they wouldn't even admit that fact. They wouldn't have even suggested that it might be, because then that shows that there's another country out there with far superior technology to theirs, and that poses a massive national security risk. If any government genuinely believed that what was recorded was another country's experimental plane or aircraft of whatever type, they would not have even admitted to it.
Yeah, but some of the witnesses, it doesn't. They're describing travel way more than what a human can make in this world.
Yeah.
Technology that we're not advanced enough to do.
The only way that you can describe that you could even comes remotely close to describing how those things move and the speeds they do, it would have to be anti-gravitation engines. It's got to, that is the only physical way they could achieve it. They couldn't achieve that with that kind of maneuverability with jets, modern jets. That has got to be anti-gravity propulsion. It's got to be. By the speeds and the sharpness, 90-degree turns, and nothing living would be able to survive traveling like that unless they are contained within an anti-grav field.
And if you're, some of these wars are fought with these drones, or soldiers are basically in an office on a computer flying these drones, traveling at that amount of speed. You can imagine it wouldn't be that possible. I don't think it'd be that possible for a human being to be able to control an aircraft going that quick.
Yeah,
going that quick.
Yeah. Yeah, I've actually said this myself, Taz. Well, Siga says they're too advanced for us to have made them. I realise we're making major strides in technological advancement, but there's no way we've made flying tech that advanced yet. Bob Lazar even admitted that they couldn't reverse engineer them back in the 80s and 90s. What they can do now, I do not know, because they've had another 20, 30 years to do it. But when Bob Lazar was apparently working on them, they simply could not reverse engineer them. Kel says anti-grav for sure. Taz says, could it be humans from our future visiting the past? This is something I've suggested in the past. Could it be humans from 3,000 years in the future with really advanced technology coming back?
A future Tesla. A future Tesla.
Yeah. Because literally once we learn to break the light barrier, we control time. Literally.
Almost seems like they were going to tell us something and then they changed their mind and now they're not going to tell us.
Yeah. Well, this was exactly the same as what happened with Roswell. The day it crashed, they actually admitted it was a saucer, and then word came down from above, and they literally had to invent a very quick cover story, because all the original reports from Roswell, the military themselves admitted it was a saucer-shaped craft. They admitted that. And what the other thing they don't admit from the eyewitnesses from the Roswell area itself was the ship was pretty much intact. It was damaged. Obviously, it was damaged and there was wreckage, but the saucer itself was pretty much intact.
Wow. Yeah, that's what MCAT said. Build up and no follow through.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, trying to keep the press happy, but that's not going to keep the press happy. They're just going to keep asking questions because they haven't answered anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mandy says, I don't think even now that the pyramids could be replicated either. No. They are the angles on the corners of the pyramid are accurate to within points of a decimal to 90 degrees. There's no way a people that was using pulleys and whatever could have aligned stones with that kind of accuracy. No way.
No.
Have a good night, MCAT. Well, to be honest with you, I think I'm going to close it down now anyway, because believe it or not, we have been going for 3 hours.
Wow. I just looked at that.
Would you believe? So I'd just like to thank everybody for coming in again. Like I say every week, it is you lot who help make these streams what they are. You know, it's your suggestions and comments and opinions as well as ours that make it. So thank you very much for coming on. If you want to watch Julie's stream tomorrow, if you're in the UK, it will be in roughly 11 hours for us. Julie will be streaming on her channel, Unearthly Wanderings. Sam has got another coffee morning set up for next Thursday. What's the date, Sam?
1st of July, I think.
Yeah, Sam's doing a coffee morning stream on the 1st of July, which will be at 11 a.m. in the morning, so that Julie can actually have a lie-in for once and do an evening stream for her. So thank you all, everybody. See you again next week. It'll be same again on Friday. I'll try and get the stream up by Wednesday at the latest with what the current topic is. So have a good night, everybody, and stay safe whatever you're doing. Good night, all.
Good night.
Bye. Thanks very much.
Night.